Welcome to episode 38 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's June 10th, 2024.
That's 038.
03, that's right. Oops, my mistake.
Ravenheart's here.
Kodax is here. And I'm going to jump into some stuff I've been picking up lately. I've had a pretty busy week, so I honestly, aside from wrapping up Tunic, haven't played a whole lot. But some things I had ordered a while ago showed up. Okay. So I'll just kind of quickly go over those. Video Games Plus, that Canadian games retailer. Right. That often orders, is somehow able to secure, reprints of, really rare and hard-to-find copies of games. They recently reprinted 2 games in the Atelier series for PS4.
Did you mention these before?
I think I mentioned that I had ordered them, and now they're here.
Okay.
So I have Atelier Lua, the Scion of Ireland. And then I have Nelki, the legendary alchemist, Ateliers of the New World. This game in particular is sort of like an anniversary sort of celebration game.
Oh, okay.
It sort of brings in all the characters from all the Atelier games.
I see the cover has all the characters.
Yeah. And it's kind of got a town building vibe thing going on. It's not your typical Atelier game.
Can I look at the screenshots?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, I see we have the isometric view. I've only played Iris.
Right. This game, I'm a little bummed because this game kind of arrived damaged. You can see the sleeve is pushed up heavily, and it's bent and creased at the tops of the the case there. So I actually emailed Video Games Plus in the hopes that they will do an exchange with me because it's kind of damaged, and these are kind of the games that
you want them pristine.
Yeah. Because they're kind of niche and rare. Next thing I have is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door for Nintendo Switch came out. And here in America, there was no special bonus or anything for it. Unless you lived in New York City, you can go to the Nintendo World Store. Where they had a special GameCube-style slipcover that you could get for your game. The slipcover was also available at GameStop Canada only. Wow. So either GameStop Canada or the Nintendo World Store in New York City. So while I don't have access to the Nintendo World Store in New York City, do you remember when we went to that Last of Us event last September?
Yeah.
For the anniversary?
Yep, I remember.
We met a couple of people there who were part of this Discord group. Yeah. And so I got invited to the Discord group because it sounded like something I'd be interested in joining. Right. And on there, it's a fairly small Discord group. There's maybe about 10, 15 active people on it. But they're collectors of games from all around the world. Right. And they all help each other, get their hands on.
They're all pretty well funded, if I remember right.
Yeah, a lot of them were software engineers, people with a lot of expendable income. And so, I don't know, I love the GameCube. And I was like, wow, I gotta have this slipcover. Right. So the guy one of the guys who lived in Canada helped me get my hands on it. Cool. And then the other side is a Switch slipcover, and it's actually embossed and raised on the back here.
Oh, nice.
I love that Nintendo recognized that. Yeah, this is a GameCube game. Right. Right. But this port is from a ground. It's not really a port. It's a from the ground up
remake,
1-to-1 remake. It did get an updated localization that, from what I've seen online, is more accurate to the original Japanese localization. Okay. I guess there's some things that were kind of sort of censored back then because Nintendo was maybe pushing more of a family friendly. Yeah, exactly. So it's cool to see that that got an update along with the game itself, a visual update.
Cool.
Okay, one last thing that showed up, the new issue of Game Informer, which I think will lead into your discussion coming up in a second here. So, like we mentioned a while ago, I subscribe to the new direct-to-door subscription for Game Informer.
Yep.
19-something gets you 10 issues a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And this month's, or it's not really this month's because it's every 5 weeks, but this new issue is got a really gorgeous illustration from Hades 2, which is now out in early access.
That's Athena, by the way.
Oh, okay,
Athena.
it is. And the title cover story is The Making of Hades 2.
Yeah.
So I haven't really peeked into it because it showed up, I think, on Friday or Saturday, and I've been at IGN Live all weekend.
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited to crack into this one. One more run. The Making and Mythology of Hades 2 by Marcus Stewart. So yeah, I'll check out that article.
Cool.
And yeah, what have you been playing, right?
Yeah, let me read that after you're done with it.
Sure, you got it.
Yeah. Okay, so, I have been playing Hades 1, which I'm going to start talking about. If you remember from the last 2 episodes, I bought it and received it, and now I've actually opened it and started it. And I'll get into it.
Okay.
But Pokemon Go real quick.
Sure. Pokemon Go Minute with Ravenheart.
Yeah. So last night I got the gold medal for doing 200 routes. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I checked to get the platinum is 600 routes.
Yeah. I think I'm at maybe 50 some routes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I usually do one when I go on my walk, but I sometimes like the routes, like to get it started, it's like really finicky.
Yeah.
Like it'll look like it started, but then I'll have walked like 100 yards, and it's like, oh, your route got paused like back at the start.
That happens.
Like,
yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah. They should do a better job of at least notifying you that there's an issue.
Yeah.
Because all it shows is a little like the icon changed in the corner. You know, they should like have more of a pop-up or something.
Did you see the new route I built? It's called Library Loop.
Yeah.
It's one you can't really do sitting in a car.
Right.
You actually have to kind of walk it because it does take you through like some sidewalk paths.
Right. I built one at home.
Oh, you did?
For myself, basically. And I did that one. And I like how I made mine because you pass within range of the endpoint, like halfway through. Oh,
okay.
So you can handle the Mateo stuff.
Oh, interesting.
You know, like early, yeah.
Okay.
So
does that make the Zygarde cell spawn early too?
No. You know what? That's a good question.
Okay.
I have to go back and check.
Okay.
The last time I did it, I don't think I got a Zygarde cell.
Yeah, what is it with that? Why is it sometimes...
It's only every 24 hours, and it's sometimes. You have a chance of... You're either going to get 0, 1, or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought maybe the longer the route was, the more likely you were to get 2.
Oh, okay.
But because the route I made in the place where we work... is pretty long. Like it's a mile.
Right.
And so I thought maybe that would like make it give me 2.
Right.
That's kind of weird that you can get 0.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of lame.
Yeah. It is. I'm over like 200 cells.
Oh, okay.
So I'm good.
Did you already
use them? No.
Oh, okay.
Well, the current season shows Zygarde, so I think we might be getting another one.
So you want to maybe get a better one?
Hopefully. Yeah. Get a better one or just a second one. I noticed that when I did the Deoncé thing recently, because I have a Deoncé, I didn't get another one.
You just got more...
I got more candy.
You got more candy.
Mega
I think they only want people getting one mythical period ever.
But I wonder that if I had transferred it to home, if I would have got another one.
My understanding is that it knows if you completed the prior research that gave you one.
Okay.
So if you got the one from GoFest last year,
okay,
this new research just gives you candy.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I think the only time you'll ever get a second mythical is if it's like a guaranteed shiny mythical.
Okay.
From like a masterwork research.
Right. But I'm wondering if I'll get a second Zygarde. Because I do
Zygarde, I don't believe is a mythical.
Okay.
So I do think it's possible you could get another Zygarde.
Got it.
I think that's likely.
There's the 50% form, and then there's the 100% form.
Yeah, there's too many like weird kind of things with that one. You want at least 3.
Right. So, anyways, that's Pokemon Go for you. Pokemon Go Minute with Ravenheart. So let me start talking about Hades.
Yes, please.
So I started this game, and right away, It did take a good 10, 15 minutes to really pick up on how the combat works. Mm-hmm. It's so Hades and Hades 2 are an isometric dungeon crawler hack and slash. I should probably say that before I start talking about it, but it's very much one of those types of combat where you have to just keep dashing. Mm-hmm. Like you dash like mad.
Right.
Very reminiscent of like Transistor and those kind of games. Also from Supergiant.
Yep.
So you have a cast, a special, a normal attack, and a dash, and those are your 4 face buttons.
When you mean cast, like a spell?
Yeah, it's this like stone that he throws, and then you have to retrieve it.
Oh,
and an enemy can actually catch it and hold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the point of it then? So
throughout, I'll talk about the structure of how the game works, but throughout like your attempt at escape from the underworld, you get buffs, like different like boosts or boons they call them, from the different Olympian gods and other gods. That will cause your cast to change and become more powerful and do other kinds of stuff. Also, like your dash will leave a tornado where you started, and that'll do damage, or a fire or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's the combat is really fast paced. It's not. I mean, I think I'm good at it, but I don't think I'm great at it.
Yeah.
Like that kind of combat.
I think it's supposed to be one of those games that's like easy to pick up, but like hard to master.
Yeah. Right. What's interesting about it, before I start talking about like the quality of the game and stuff, is that you would think that, because so much of the environment's destructible. Like every pillar you see, every boulder, every pot, statues on the wall and stuff, everything can be broken. So you are running around hitting everything. And you would think with a game like that, there's going to be health pickups. No, you have to protect your health. And you will only restore health from like certain opportunities to do so. And they're not common. Also, your abilities that you're boosting throughout the game will cause you to gain more like health recovery by going through the next door. In each room.
It's like, you'll recover 5% when you go to the next room.
It's like +1, +2, or +3 HP. It's very small increments. But yeah, you have to really protect your health.
So you're encouraged to play like flawlessly in each like room you go into.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want to lose as little as possible per room. So the way the game works is you have your hub, and you play as dang it.
The protagonist?
Shoot. I had it. He's the son of Hades.
Right.
And he's
It's okay.
Zedius or something like that.
Okay.
And so well, that's embarrassing. Anyways, his whole deal is that he wants to get out of the underworld. So he's going to go through Tartarus, which is, the underworld's expanded kingdom. And you're going to try to clear it. And from what I understand, there's 4 bosses and a final boss, or the 4th boss is the final boss. I haven't I've only gotten as far as 16 rooms at this point. And then you're going to fail, and you're going to come back to the hub, use the crystals and resources you got to level up your weapons and your other boosts and stuff like that.
So it sounds like you're intended to die.
Yes, you will die a lot.
Okay.
You will die every time you try until you beat the game.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the structure of how it works. Now, as far as the quality, the art is amazing. It is exactly what you'd expect from Supergiant. It looks very reminiscent of Transistor as far as the style.
Is it pure 2D, or is there like 3D assets on screen too?
No, it's 2D.
Okay.
It is 2D. I didn't see any 3D assets.
Okay.
At least not yet. They paint it from a 3D perspective sometimes. But what stands out to me the most is the dialogue and the writing and the voice acting. It is so good.
Yeah.
Like every line of every character is feels meticulously written. Like someone spent all day coming up with that.
That one line.
Yeah, exactly. Because every line has some clever, witty. I'll give you an example. Okay. This is not the best example I could have pulled, but this is the you get what's called the Kodax, which is your bestiary / character profile thing. Sure. And it also covers artifacts and enemies and stuff like that.
Are there collectibles in the game?
A lot.
Oh, there are.
There are a lot, yeah. So this is the description for gemstones. Okay. Gemstones are just what you expect them to be.
This is flavor text right here?
Yeah, flavor text. But just the way... This is... Okay, they could have described gemstones. You can imagine what a description of gemstones.
A shiny rock.
Yeah, basically, right? That's valuable. This is how they wrote it. Mortals cherish these stones of many brilliant colors, going to lengths to excavate them from the earth, to steal them, to be blunt, from the rightful domain of Master Hades. The Master also values them, for light exists in limited supply down here, and light refracted from these gemstones' facets is most valuable of all.
That's interesting.
Just
it's
really
world building on top of
every line of every character, even small talk is world building.
Because now all of a sudden I'm thinking of the underworld literally lit. Yeah. By light moving through gems, so I'm just seeing the kinds of lighting that would be on the wall in my head.
That is just such a talented description of an item that I don't have other examples in games to compare that to, really. There are some, but...
Sure, yeah.
Anyways, so there is a narrator voice as well that's not part of some character, at least not that I'm aware of yet. Okay. And it's this, British male accent voice. And so much of this game is reminding me of Dragon's Crown from Vanillaware.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like Supergiant were playing Dragon's Crown when they were doing the design phase for this game. Dragon's Crown is basically the exact same thing, but instead of it doesn't have the roguelike map generation that this game has. This game actually randomizes the rooms, whereas the maps in Dragon's Crown are static.
I think so, yeah.
And Dragon's Crown is also a side scroll hack and slash, whereas this is isometric. Yep. But the art is on par. And that's a big statement, because if you've played Vanillaware, theirs is more exaggerated. If they're going to make a character look old, or they want you to feel like this character is old, they're going to make him look disgusting.
Vanillaware?
Vanillaware, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The Supergiant's not quite that exaggerated, but their character design, their clothing and stuff is just as talented. Yeah. And the writing is just on par. But Dragon's Crown also has that British narrator type of voice.
It does, that's right.
And it's just crazy how many parallels I'm drawing with this game to Dragon's Crown. Yeah. Weird. But great on Supergiant. I can understand now why the development team felt so passionate enough to make a sequel. Yeah. Even though it is just kind of like a Jetpack Joyride type of structure where you're just going to go as far as you can before you die. Yeah. It's everything else, when you get back to the hub, characters have something different to say.
Okay.
You know, they have something to give you. Something else is happening over here that wasn't there before.
Okay.
A lot of that.
So like
kind of stuff.
it's necessary that you die to like progress the
Right.
things elsewhere.
Yeah, it's almost like multiple things are progressing.
Right.
You're getting stronger every time you die, and so you're getting further and further.
So you don't level up as you're playing. You wait until you spend your resources when you come back to
You don't have a level.
Okay.
Like, it's not like you have stats.
All right. Okay.
But when you get back to your room, you can look in the mirror and use your darkness crystals or whatever to power up your different boons.
Oh,
so
okay.
one boon is picking up a higher percentage of crystals. So every time you pick up crystals, you get an additional 20%.
Okay.
So like if you were going to get 10 crystals to go
12.
through this room. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Another one is just powering up your weapons. So your attack can do a higher percentage. Your dash can have added effects and do a higher percentage.
So these boons, are you limited to how many you can like have equipped at once?
Yeah, so you can have one of each like category.
Okay.
And then you have to replace those if you're going to switch them.
Okay.
I'm not even like, I don't even have half the stuff unlocked. My Kodax has like a bunch of like undiscovered categories. Not just entries, but like whole categories of stuff I haven't even seen yet.
I mean, Hades is one of those games that I think like received a lot of like, I think it was originally an early access game too. So I imagine like the game that started is like so radically like different and have so many additions compared to like the final product that you're playing now, you know, that's like done.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I can imagine what the early access version felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so the other thing is the Greek mythology elements make me smile.
Yeah.
Despite not knowing off the top of my head Hades' son's name, I do know a lot. I know about all the different like incestuous, like Poseidon, Zeus, Hades are all brothers.
Right.
And then Zeus has like a child with Artemis. He has a child with Aphrodite, you know.
Medusa.
Yeah. All of them. So I know Hercules is going to show up at some point. You do meet Achilles right away.
Yeah.
He's in the underworld. And I might be wrong about this, but it's something I have noticed. The voices of the characters who are living sound normal, but the voices of the characters who are dead, and I don't mean like they died in the game, I mean like that character is dead, you know, like Achilles. Like they have like a reverb effect applied to their voice to create like an echoey. Yeah, it's interesting. I could be wrong. That might not be what that is, but it seems that way.
Okay.
And then when you start your next attempt at escape, immediately you're gonna receive a message from one of the Olympian gods who's going to let you select a boon.
Okay.
And that boon is just good for that attempt.
Okay,
right?
interesting.
So even the gold coins that you pick up, the currency that you pick up is just for that attempt. So, which means you run into shops and stuff like that throughout your attempt. So
is the idea that you will eventually survive an entire playthrough?
Correct.
Through all 4 bosses in one go?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's how this works.
Okay, I wasn't sure if like after you beat the first boss, maybe like
I've hit the first boss.
Oh, you have?
And haven't beat her yet.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty wild.
Okay.
And then you go back to your room, and as you get more of these keys from your attempts, you can unlock more weapons. I think there's 6 weapons in total.
Okay.
Right now I only have a sword and a bow, but there's also a spear and a shield, and that's all I can see.
Okay.
There's like more weapons that I can't even see them yet. And then there's a chest that has what are called keepsakes, and those are when you bring back like other little trinkets like nectar and all this other stuff. You have the option to give them to a character who then gives you something in return. And that's how you get these keepsakes. Okay. So every character has their own keepsake that you can get from them, and they have different effects.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That you can bring into battle with you? Okay.
So one of them that I have starts you off with 100 gold.
Okay.
Like immediately every attempt you get.
So these are kind of like sort of equipment.
Exactly.
Or like an accessory, maybe.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then another one starts you off with like 40%. Oh no, it's I remember the first 10 seconds of every room, your attacks deal 40% more.
Oh, so you're encouraged to really make use of those 10 seconds.
Exactly. So there's all these kinds of modifiers.
Okay.
That and it just becomes a salad of all these different conditions and modifiers until you're strong enough to just power through. Okay. You're gonna keep dying, but like you're gonna get further every time. Okay. Unless you're just grinding and you don't care and you go back. But the further you get, the better the rewards get.
What would be the purpose of grinding?
To get more of the darkness crystals so that you can get your...
Power up your bones.
Yeah, get your, like, recovery, regeneration. Health is the biggest thing.
Right.
Like, I'll say this now, like, focus on your HP first, because there are no health pickups unless you get a boon that does allow health pickups. Okay. So automatically there's none. There are boons that like give enemies 15% chance to drop food or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then you actually do have, but those expire after like 6 encounters or however many. So they don't last the whole attempt.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the environment, the way it looks, everything. There are moments where you like go look off a cliff and there's this landscape that's, the underworld, and it's just like, I don't know. The animation doesn't have like the 2D puppetry style that like Vanillaware does, but it's still gorgeous. Like it doesn't need it.
Is it like just sort of still instead?
A lot of particle systems. Oh, okay. So yeah, the 2D art is well painted, but it is still, but like you do have a lot of motion. Okay. And characters also have like auras that are like, like Charon, who's the ferryman. Okay. You actually saw a picture of him in your magazine.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah, he's got the big hat, and his face is just like a skull, but it's like covered with his coat. Uh-huh. He's the shopkeeper basically. Oh, okay. And during these attempts, but he's always got like blue smoke coming off of him, and there's enough motion for me to be satisfied with not having animation and stuff like that.
So are you like committed?
Oh yeah, I'm like I said, every time I turn the game on, I'm like this. I'm like grinning. Yeah. I love it.
It's nice when you find like a game that's like really good at just being a game. Yeah. Like just being fun.
Right.
Like
I think it is the dialogue that does it the most. I want to read just one more example. Sure. This is some actual dialogue. So you can kind of see, this is Hades' desk, his throne. He's at a desk and he's got stacks of papers, which you assume are just like the papers of people dying, like the documents. He's signing their souls to hell. And that's Cerberus sitting right there.
Nice.
So there's this one part in the hub story that seems to be developing outside of your attempts at escape. Every time you come back, Hades tells you you're foolish and go to your room, basically.
So your dad is there.
Yeah, he's there, yeah. Okay. And he's the reason you can't escape.
Okay.
So it's just a weird dynamic that way. But there's one point in this like developing hub story where Cerberus tore up the lounge.
Okay.
He tore up the lounge apparently because Zadius or whatever, the prince of the underworld, went away to go escape, and so Hades is blaming him. Oh. And then
so it's like this like family dynamic.
Yeah, like, and then he's like,
go clean this up.
He's like, you basically let the dog run loose and didn't have control over it, and you're blaming me. Yeah. So but the language is so like intricate and sophisticated. Okay. And so this is Cerberus feeling bad for tearing up the lounge.
Okay.
The guilt-racked monster Cerberus admits to committing the crime, expressing some remorse for having implicated the incendiary prince. Like just, the language like is a novel.
Is everything voice acted?
Yeah.
Oh, so like, even the narrator reading that?
Yeah, the narrator would be reading that. And that adds to it big time. Even the like the UI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it gets red.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's great. I can't get enough. I want to get done with this episode so I can
go back to playing.
Yeah, it's so good. I know I have started things even on this podcast and not finished them. I don't see myself quitting this game.
Okay,
it's just too good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it like one more run?
Yeah,
like you finish.
Yeah. Like it's super addictive, and you're always like, okay, one more. Because of the Switch, the way the Switch works, where you can kind of just turn it off.
Yeah,
you can kind of just
suspend it.
Stop. Yeah, you can suspend it after like the next room.
Sure.
I haven't actually closed the game yet.
Oh wow!
I actually just did it, and so I'm gonna see if I am gonna go back to the hub or if I'm gonna stay.
Do you like hit save and quit or
no,
something?
there doesn't seem to be like a selectable save function.
So you just it's like maybe it's auto saving.
Right. Which that's convenient, but at least tell me.
Yeah, I do not like when games don't tell you when or if you have saved. Because then you hit quit and it's like, are you sure? All of your unsaved progress will be lost.
Right.
Like, well, how do I know if I've saved or not?
Right. You don't know where the autosave is at.
Yeah.
And I understand wanting it to be seamless and maybe that being something that a developer doesn't want you to notice because they don't want it to distract from...
Right.
You know, kind of like when games have their hub kind of integrated into the environment. This is kind of a design example for me, something we talked about in school even.
Okay.
Dead Space has Isaac's health meter down his spine. And I fell in love with that concept to the point where I wanted to make games that were like...
I feel like
there
was a particular underwater game maybe that used something like that. Or am I thinking of something else?
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're actually right. It wasn't the health, but it was something else.
Okay.
But yeah, it was totally inspired by that.
It was like the stomach meter or something like that.
It was like the hunger meter.
Yeah, the hunger, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I feel like maybe it's the same line of thought that the developer is going through when they don't put saving down in the corner or something.
Yes, a lot of games just have like a little like icon that just kind of like lightly flashes in the corner.
And this game actually might have something like that, but I haven't identified it.
Right.
So that kind of stinks. But I'm going to assume it's auto-saving. I know Supergiant's games, like Transistor autosaves.
Yeah.
So...
But yeah, this is the kind of game where it's like, is it...
Mm-hmm.
Is it just at the hub that it saves?
Right.
Or, is it like when I walk into a new room?
Right.
When I cleared a room?
Right.
Like you said, you'll find out, and then you'll know.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only one way to find out.
Like, it would suck if you were, like, right at the boss.
Yeah.
And then it's like you lost.
I don't think I was on an important run. I was kind of just grinding a little bit.
Gotcha.
So I'll be fine if I just return with my crystals. If I don't... all my stuff's lost and I don't have it retained, that would suck.
That hurts. Yeah. But then you learn that lesson once.
Right.
And then hopefully you don't experience it again.
I closed it so I could open my album so I could read those.
It wouldn't let you open the album?
Oh, maybe it did. I don't know.
Okay.
I closed it preemptively.
I'm pretty sure unless the game takes up so much of the CPU or RAM or something that it won't allow you to open up peripheral apps.
Right,
Then you might be okay. It might still be there.
Okay.
Unless you
But I actually did close it.
Oh, you hard closed it? Okay.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Okay.
Playing Hades.
I was at an event this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
IGN Live. This is an event that they announced early this year, I think back in February.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, it's a 3-day event. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was sort of like a very light E3 meets Comic-Con, I guess you kind of say, because they did involve some TV show, movie stuff too.
Right.
IGN isn't just games. They cover movies and TV shows and other entertainment related things.
Right.
So it was true to its name, I guess you could say. But games were still the forefront, for sure.
Real quick, though, what does IGN stand for?
Something Gamer Network,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're right.
I can't remember what the I stands for. Internet Gaming Network
Something
or
like
Internet
that, yeah.
something like that.
Anyways, the G is games.
Yeah.
That's my point.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
But like I said, the emphasis was definitely on the games. So I have a bunch of like random little things that I got at the event. But real quick, I just want to kind of break down what the venue sort of looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So it was at this place called the Magic Box, which is not really I'm not sure I'd recommend it as like for something like this, because it is broken up into like different rooms. So there were 3 main areas. On the first floor, you have what they called like the main hall, which had the main stage. And when I say hall, this is not convention center hall.
Okay.
This is like a small, maybe 500 people could be in this room.
So describe the venue a little bit. Like, is it like a gallery type setup?
No, it's definitely bigger than. Imagine the size of gallery nucleus, but like multiplied by 2. Kind of got that long rectangular sort of shape.
Okay.
But like bigger, like stretch it out. Kinda.
Okay.
So that's the main hall. They had a stage up at the front there.
So it's like an auditorium kind of thing almost, is what I'm seeing.
No, because there's no seats. It was all standing room.
Right. Minus the seats.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there's a stage. Right as you walk in, there was like a merch booth there where they had like IGN merch and shirts and things like that, and some non-IGN stuff as well.
Right.
They had a couple little areas set up where like they were recording some like little side content for like the website. Like they had like a separate little, like almost like those little news broadcaster sort of sets,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And then they had an area where you could like play against like IGN personalities and like YouTubers, and like you could play like Mario Kart and whatever. I didn't see them play it, but I saw Donkey Kong bongos.
Okay.
For the GameCube were sitting around on one of the tables. So at some point they must have been playing Donkey Konga.
Right.
And then so that's pretty much that room.
Okay.
And then there's an area they called the gaming hall, which was in sort of an adjacent room to that. And that is where all the demos were.
Okay.
And so the games available for play were very much so stuff that's already out and available.
I would expect that.
Yeah. Some of the indies that were there were showcasing like an upcoming game that they're working on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like everything from Sega, everything from Square Enix, everything. I can't remember. Bandai Namco had a presence there, but I don't know if they had demos or if it was just this Elden Ring. Like a big kind of, the typical thing you sort of see at E3.
Right.
One of those like weird things they build. And PM Studios was there. They're like a publisher that helps a lot of indie games go physical. Mm-hmm. And
what were they called again?
PM Studios.
Okay.
They're like a bigger operation than something like Limited Run, because they are in like retail stores and things like that.
Okay.
They're not like just like for they're not online sales only.
So they're more like a traditional publisher.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had some cool stuff. There was an arcade area where they had a bunch of like old arcade cabinets, like legit arcade cabinets on one side, and then there was like an arcade 1-up section on the other side.
Okay.
And that's also where like the kind of indie segment was. There was a lot of PC stuff.
Okay.
A lot of PC demos. Kingdom Hearts just came out for Steam, and so they had that playable on like Steam decks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it finally left the Epic Game Store. Well, it's still in the Epic Game Store, but now you can get it on Steam too.
Gotcha.
And then upstairs, the only way to get upstairs, at least during this event, I don't know, they had the stairs blocked for some reason. Maybe they just didn't want people hurting themselves or something. So the only way you could get upstairs was to take the elevator, which takes up 1 floor, and they were utilizing 2 areas upstairs on the 2nd floor. And this is like a huge like 10-story building, 15-story building.
Oh, wow.
I think it's like a kind of a co-op sort of workspace kind of thing.
Okay.
But I guess they also use it as events too.
They just rented the building probably from some company that actually exists there or something.
Yeah, the Magic Box is like the venue space,
Okay.
from what I understand. And then the building is called the Reef.
Oh, okay. Never heard of it.
It's definitely a building we've seen a bunch of times driving to E3.
Really? Okay.
It's like 2 exits before you'd get off to go to the convention center. There's like this big white building with this screen kind of wrapped around it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like right off the 5 freeway.
I know what you're talking about.
No, not the 5. It's the 10.
Yeah, the 105, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever that freeway is. So yeah, I didn't realize that it was that. I was like, oh wow, I remember this. They would have like E3 ads and stuff like around it.
Right.
So the second floor, they had like this like kind of a lobby lounge / waiting area where you could get like snacks and drinks, and there were tables. You could buy beer and stuff like that. And then they had a screening room off to the side where a handful of panels and like movie screenings and like TV show screenings and things like that were in there. The only time I went in there when I just didn't have anything kind of going on, and they were showing this documentary called, it's like The Incredible Life of Evelyn. And Evelyn was that's his online name. He was this video game player who had he was born in 89, it said. And he played World of Warcraft and other online games, but he was born with like a rare like muscle disease.
I might have seen this person. Not in person, but I think I might know who this is.
So it's on, this documentary's on Netflix apparently.
Okay.
But it's so, and long story short, basically his parents who raised him, you know, they were always, I mean, like, they let him play games almost begrudgingly, but because they knew he couldn't, like, really do much out in the real world, because as he got older, he just continued to, like, decline more and more, and he had, like, a special gaming setup, and, but, you know, he was, like hunched over, couldn't move his neck, you know, things like that, like, pretty bad situation, and he died when he was 25, so about a decade ago now.
Okay.
And his parents...
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And his name was Mats, his actual name. But his online character name was Evelyn. And his parents knew that he had, like, a blog where he talked about, like, his gaming and, like, his, like, you know, just his life, you know, as, like, a disabled person.
Gotcha.
So his parents were able to log in, and they posted this message, like, letting... You know, like, well, we know he has people online that he plays with, so maybe we can post here so they can know that he's gone. And apparently it just sent, like, hundreds and hundreds of emails poured in to the parents, who I guess left their email address at the bottom of the blog post. And they just discovered that he had this whole huge, massive hidden life, and he, like, had touched, like, hundreds and hundreds of people's lives.
Oh, okay.
And like they showed some of the emails, and they were like half a novel long, you know.
Right.
It's like someone was like, "Oh, your son was like a player. He got along really well with the girls." Just like all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's so I watched about 30 minutes of it, but then I left. But I'm going to continue. I was like really enjoying it. It was really well done. It's on Netflix. If you're interested in. Probably something that might make you, you know, cry. Or
it sounds emotional.
It is going to be emotional. But what's really cool is they must have, like, got Blizzard to sign off on this, because there's, like, these in-game, like, recreations of, like, events from his, like, life in the game. Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm sure Blizzard would. They'd probably have... It'd probably... look really bad PR-wise if they said no.
Yeah, but like the segments like from the South Park episode,
there's a precedent of them doing that.
And like they've called it machinima, like using like game recording to like create movies.
Okay.
And like even at BlizzCon they would have like machinima contests where people could submit their short films that were made.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Was Red versus Blue, like, I know that's Halo.
That was a machinima.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they would call that.
What's this called again? One more time?
Just look up Ibelin. It's Ibelin.
Right, okay.
And they're from, like, Norway or Sweden or something like that.
Gotcha.
And it was cool. Before the movie started, his parents actually recorded like a 10-minute like intro, like just for like IGN Live, where they were kind of like setting the stage and talking about it. And I kind of regret that I did not record it.
Okay.
Because it was like tailored. Like I don't think it'll be seen anywhere else.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I did get a picture of it, but yeah, they were clearly like in their little office at home. You know, just emailing that over to the good old US of A. So that was pretty much the setup. So throughout the weekend, there were they had like two schedules, one for what was going on in the panel room upstairs, and one for what was going on in the main stage in the main hall. And pretty much most of the big stuff was happening in the main hall. And they were going giveaway crazy in the main hall. Like giving away $500 fight sticks, $200 like pro gamer controllers, and a bunch of junk.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
I actually happened to get one of those pro PS5 controllers.
Wow.
And someone like on the spot was like, hey, I'll give you $130 for that.
Really? Wow.
And I was like, by the time I sell something like this on eBay, I mean, I was debating keeping it for myself, but I was like...
Was it special in any way? Was it like a limited edition or something like that? Or was it just...
No, it's just like a one you can get on retail. It was the Victrix Pro BFG.
Okay.
Which retails for $180 or $175.
Gotcha.
And I was like, this is like something that like pro like Call of Duty type players, you know, like Twitch shooter players.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really like a necessity for me in the kinds of games I play. Like it's got all the buttons on the back and everything. Okay. So I was like, you know, I'll take you up on your offer, sir.
Yeah.
So that was like the one cool giveaway I got. A lot of the other giveaways they were giving were kind of junk. It was like Spawn figures and like all the action figures for things that were not very popular. Like it seemed like they were clearing out stuff from the IGN warehouse.
They probably were just giving away their. But I mean that's pretty cool junk. Yeah. You know,
it is. There were some people who did get stuff like Steam Decks, laptops.
Wow.
Like there were people who were. From the moment that thing opened every day until the moment the main stage closed, they were just there, for lack of a better word, hoeing themselves out for free stuff. Yeah. Like it was like whoever can scream the loudest is gonna get something, you know. So it was like
very reminiscent of like what on live.
Yeah, like when they were giving out the OnLive console.
I remember when we were at PAX and OnLive was there before, you know, when we were waiting in line to get into the event, and they had some Gears of War guy come out or something. He had one of the chainsaw swords or something like that, like a real one, and you know and then the beach balls with the OnLive.
It did feel very reminiscent of like a crazy E3 stage show, like where like they were just trying to get like a crowd hyped up for the cameras, you know?
Yeah.
Like just being like, wow.
Right.
And they were not lying. There were so many giveaways. But yeah, I would say 90% of it was stuff no one on this planet needs. But quickly, I'm gonna go through some of the stuff I got. Like I said, the only thing I got from the stage was that controller. And I got it because I was one of the first few people in there on the first day. And right as you walk in, it puts you pretty close to the stage. And for whatever reason, some people were kind of wandering around. But nobody was at the stage. But they had like a hype man on the stage. And he got on mic and he's like, all right, the first person who comes up here is going to get something really cool. And I was like, I'm not really the person who wants to like, me. But like no one was walking up and I was only like 10 feet away. So I was like, all right, whatever. And so I walk up and he's like, what's your name? And I give him my name. And then he's like, you're going to get this. And I see him like there was the $500 fight stick. And then there was the the controller right next to it. I mean, I didn't know the fight stick was $500.
Oh, okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not unhappy that I got that controller.
Sure.
Paid for
It was free.
my gas and the $60 I paid for the VIP ticket.
Right.
Yeah, and he just like, here you go, you get this. He's like, this is a really awesome, expensive controller, and I'm like, cool, thanks. And I just walk away.
It is $180.
It is, no, and I did really debate. I was like, and what's cool about that controller is that it's modular. Mm-hmm. So like if your sticks go bad or something, you can just replace them without like losing the whole controller.
Okay, that makes sense for like the really intense hardcore gamers.
Exactly, yeah.
They probably break their thumbsticks.
Yeah. So I did mull it over, but when someone offered me the money, I was like, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
You'll actually use it. I could give you a deal, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so as part of the VIP package, I got a special VIP bag.
Nice.
So it's got IGN Live branding on it. Mm-hmm. This is a very cheap, like, cotton polyester bag or whatever, screen printed with the IGN Live logo on it. And inside the bag, there was a coupon.
Was this a swag bag that was handed to you at the beginning, or?
Yes, you only got this if you bought the VIP tickets.
Right. Okay.
So I don't have everything in here that was in here because there were various coupons for like discounts on the IGN store, and then also a free T-shirt to redeem or a little voucher to redeem for any one of the T-shirts that they were selling in the store. Okay. And they did have we'll go over my T-shirt later. Okay. But yeah, they did have 4 designs that were specifically like for IGN Live. Mm-hmm. And then they had a few other designs that were like promoting like the different podcasts and stuff on the IGN like network.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I did redeem the shirt. But let's go over some. Oh yeah. So I got this Toyota Camry / IGN Live cinch like backpack, Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, they were a sponsor. There was a.
It's tie-dyed.
Yeah, I know the tie-dye was a little weird. I think they had a 2025 Camry like on the floor in the gaming area.
Gotcha. Sponsored.
Sponsored. Hold on, what's in this bag over here? Oh yeah, these are the games that I will talk about in a moment. So I got this dog penguin plushie.
Okay.
Who I believe is from the game
My Time at
Sandrock, right?
Oh yeah, that's
Sandrock. So I think this was part of like the collector's edition of the game. Okay. But the studio they must have just had a bunch of overstock, and so they just gave it all to IGN because they must have given out over 1,000 of these little plushes. Wow. They were just constantly throwing. Every time I walked in there, they were throwing these plushies out to the crowd.
Jeez, wow.
Like, it got to the point where people didn't want them anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, we all got one.
Jeez.
But then they got creative for the really expensive gifts, like the laptops. Mm-hmm. What they did was they would put like a special sticker on one of the plushes. Mm-hmm. And so when they started throwing out they're like, okay, we're going to throw out 100 plushes, and one of them has... The sticker that gives you the laptop. Gotcha. So that's how they got rid of more of them. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay, so IGN, as part of the VIP gift, you also got this corduroy IGN Live snapback hat.
As far as hats go, that's pretty nice.
It is pretty nice. I mean, this style hat...
That's not you.
Does not work for me.
Looking at you right
all. Now. Yeah, I know. But like, feel it's actually pretty nice quality. Yeah. Let's see. Is it Rick?
Okay, I'll try it on. It needs to get tight.
Oh, a little more tight.
Probably.
Well, we don't need to make it super tight, but all right.
Nah, it's gotta fit.
It's gotta cut off my blood circulation.
Oh, you know what? This is why.
Okay.
Hang on. There you go.
It looks a little funny on you. It's a very bro hat.
Yeah, it's very like monster.
And now I gotta reinsert this cardboard thing in here.
Oh, we gotta keep it pristine.
Yeah, dude. With all the original parts.
IGN swag.
But yeah, I thought it was just a generic IGN hat at first, but it does have the event branding on it, which is cool.
No, it is cool.
What else do we got in here? Okay, so it included a comic book related to this video game called High on Life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made by Squanch Games, who was founded by the creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, who is no longer
with us.
No, well, he's with us, but he's no longer welcome.
Okay.
In many places.
Gotcha.
But the writer of the comic book was also the writer of the game. Unfortunately, I do not own a physical copy of the game, but I did get the comic signed, and they gave out these little promo pens with the company logo on them. And I also got one that's like an error print.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
cool.
Instead of saying Squanch Games, it just says
SQ.
Squanch.
Here you
go. There wasn't a lot. Okay, this is the shirt. We'll go over the shirt later when we talk shirts. Okay, this is a really interesting one. A IGN Live / Camry branded candle.
Yeah, okay, that is an interesting. I don't know that we've ever received a candle.
Yes, this one was bizarre. There was this area in the gaming lounge that was sponsored by Camera that looked like a very classy high-end living room.
Okay.
And this is where they were giving out the candles.
It fit the theme of their exhibit.
I guess, yeah. So yeah, this one did kind of make me scratch my head, but in like a, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Never thought about candles.
Right.
Okay, there was a
sensu fan.
A scavenger hunt you could do that was sponsored by IGN and Hulu.
Okay.
Where you had to find these 5 hidden objects between the 2 halls and take pictures of them and show them to the person at the booth. Gotcha. And yes, you would get a IGN Live. What do you call this fan?
Sensu fan.
Sensu fan.
Yeah.
So I mean, helpful at the show when it's getting a little hot and steamy and stinky.
Yeah, sure. Get that.
But yeah, definitely weird.
Get that gamer sweat flowing.
Surprisingly, I didn't really smell too much. People seem to have showered for this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was I was expecting, I did see quite a bit of dandruff. That's... everyone wore deodorant. That was very pleasant.
Yeah.
By the way, I was thinking, I thought of a great name for an album or a band.
Okay.
Actually, you know what it is?
I have a few of those.
Oh yeah, me too. It might be the title of this episode. But deodorant and dandruff.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, yeah, that's okay. Almost done. Now we're getting to the weird little there's only a couple things that are particularly interesting here. So as part of the VIP bag, they gave out stickers. 5 Hour Energy also had a huge presence on the show floor. So much 5 Hour Energy I got. Yeah. I got 20 bottles of it.
Jeez.
And they also had stickers, and it shows someone wearing a VR headset. So they somehow made it they have a gamer edition of 5 Hour. That's what they were promoting. The gamer edition.
Now, does it have any kind of branded games on it? Or is it just some
it's not no licensed games. It's all generic kind of looking stuff.
Gamers with a Z.
So there were some stickers. So IGN, more 5 Hour Energy.
Yeah.
See, it's got this
polygonal
apple flavor.
Interesting.
So IGN just gave out stickers for the brand, the podcast that they have. I think this one is Nintendo Video Chat. This is Unlocked. This is their Xbox podcast, I think. And then Beyond, I think, is their PlayStation
That
podcast.
one looks like a political bumper sticker.
Go beyond politics. And then the rest of the stuff I have here is just some little handouts that some of the indie booths were giving out or discounts to the IGN store.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah.
Your typical con swag.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I do want to talk about two more things.
Yeah.
First of all, Mountain Dew, huge shout out.
Yeah.
They gave out every day, maybe, I don't know, 3,000 bottles of Mountain Dew.
I'm drinking one right now.
Yeah, I brought one for Rick. That's his swag. That's his pickup that I brought home for him.
Score.
Yeah. And these are the gamer branded variants of Mountain Dew right now that have special codes under the caps to get prizes for Xbox or something like that.
Yes. In stores now.
I'll
probably get one.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, they kept people hydrated with sugar water. Unfortunately, water was not free, and there are no drinking fountains there.
Weird.
Which brings up one more thing. The bathroom situation was horrific.
Okay.
Men had 2 bathroom options. Women had more, for whatever reason. I think it's just how they blocked off certain areas of the venue to be like the staff staging areas.
2 bathroom options, so like the bathroom and the bush?
No, like one bathroom and another bathroom. Okay, so on the first floor, where the main stage is, there's no bathroom accessible there.
Okay.
You have to go downstairs to the basement, where the only thing happening there is a bathroom that has 2 urinals and 1 stall.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And then the other option is to take an elevator up to the 2nd floor and to go to another bathroom up there, which also is just 2 stalls and 1 stall and 2 urinals.
Wow.
So, needless to say, it got really gross and messy in those bathrooms. And like at times there was a line to use it. Now there were some secret porta potties that were just meant for IGN staff outside, and these were like high end porta potties, like Hollywood porta potties,
right?
Like something out of the future. I'd never seen it before.
Okay.
It felt like
smart porta potties.
Yeah, it didn't quite greet me. Although, have you ever been into one of those crazy like bathrooms that are like intelligent?
No, I've seen smart toilets.
Okay,
but
so there are these bathrooms now that are usually at like public places, that will like hose them. Like when the door closes, it like hoses the whole thing off.
Wow. I have not.
Not every time, but maybe like on the hour after so many uses or something like that.
Gotcha.
But like it'll be like, okay, like are you taking a number 1 or a number 2? And it'll like give you like a time limit to get it done.
Wow.
I think it's supposed to somehow sort of counteract like people like setting up camp inside of them.
Employees.
No, more like maybe homeless populations, but
gotcha.
Using it.
Are you...
But anyways, it like talks to you. And
I'm
stuff.
just envisioning like a homeless bum. Like getting that experience, like it starts talking.
It's like a car wash. So yeah, honestly, it might be a great way to get a shower.
Yeah. That's true. I was just thinking that. Yeah. All right, I'm ready.
Yeah. Like 5. You have 5 seconds to exit.
He's spread out like an angel.
I don't want to make light of homeless people.
Well, I mean,
but yeah, it is an image to put in your head.
I'm a visual person.
You certainly are. Anyways, so that's a tangent. Anyways, that situation was really bad at IGN Live.
Okay, yeah.
Like they got to figure out something better next year. They got to have a bunch of porties outside of the entrance.
Yeah.
Because there was 1 porta potty in the food truck area too.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, 1?
1, yeah.
1?
For the food area.
See, the problem I think they had was that IGN Live was charging for this event.
Yeah.
$60 for VIP or $25 if you just wanted to go for 1 day.
Right.
Or you could buy like 2 days for $50, or for some reason you wanted to buy 3 days individually, you could pay $75.
Yeah.
So the $60 was kind of like the deal if you were going to go all 3 days.
Right.
But the night before IGN Live on Thursday night, IGN post, hey, use code Jeffrey and get free tickets to IGN Live all 3 days. Now, you didn't get the VIP. The VIP wasn't free. So you didn't get the goodie bag with the stuff, the shirt and the hat and other things.
Right.
But you could just go to IGN Live for free.
Gotcha.
This was their first year doing it.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
think they had
gonna-
a huge amount of sign-ups.
It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
There's going to have something that they didn't
I
see.
remember when we were in Vegas for the first PlayStation experience, the night before, a bunch of like people who work for PlayStation were posting like screenshots of all these like coupon codes to get free wristbands to go to PlayStation experience.
Yeah.
So it's their first time running an event. It didn't sell out, so you give away but still on Sunday you could get free tickets to IGN Live.
Gotcha.
So maybe when they thought about the bathroom situation, they're like, okay, we've sold, 300.
Yeah.
That's enough. But when an extra 500 people all show up.
Yeah, but wouldn't you book the venue before you sell the tickets?
But
so wouldn't you know?
When I mean like with maybe they could have got more porta potties for outdoors.
Oh,
if they had known that
true.
there were going to be more people. Maybe that decision wasn't factored into the porta potty, only ordering one porta potty.
Right. You're right. Like, we sold 25 tickets. We don't need, a whole garden of porta potties.
So my main motivation to going to IGN Live was that there were going to be video game guests there. And as people know from listening, I like to get my games signed by different video game guests.
Well, we both do.
Yeah, we both do. But that was kind of my main motivation for going. If I was just going for the event itself, one day would have been more than enough.
Yeah.
There was no real motivation aside to get more free Mountain Dew and
just
5-hour energy.
all the giveaways.
Yeah, I mean, some people really wanted that Spawn figure from, whenever, or that Black Adam figure, or that... Yeah, they just had, whatever. Or more of those penguin dog plushies.
Right.
I imagine some people were like, I'm going to resell all this stuff. But, like, I looked up some of the figures that people were getting, and they're worth, like, $15 sold on eBay. So it's like, good luck moving that stuff, you know? But so real quickly, I had, like, 4 main targets I wanted to get for the weekend. One was the director of the Persona series. His last name's Hoshino.
Okay.
The other is the leader of Team Sonic. Last name's Izuka. Then there was the duo of Alexei Pajitnov and Hank Rogers. So,
how did you know they were going to be there?
IGN posted like a schedule.
Oh, okay.
And so then the last person was Stig Asmundsson, who was the director of God of War 3 and the 2 Star Wars Jedi games that Respawn made.
Right.
In recent years. And so what happened is we kind of figured out where the guests got dropped off. And so just based on the schedule, I would know to be in that general area where outside of the venue where the guests got dropped off. And so I was successful in getting the Persona director, Hoshino. I was not successful in getting Izuka. His SUV must have showed up earlier or something because he just wasn't there, and I waited until an hour after his panel ended, and he never came out of the building back there either.
Interesting.
And so we gave up on him. Some of our friends that we know, Ryan and Nick, were there, so I was hanging out with them over there. Then the next day I did get the creator of Tetris, Alexei Pajitnov, and his business partner Hank Rogers. And, if you know anything about Tetris, the two of them are like a big-time duo.
There's a movie.
Yeah, there's the documentary, and then there's the Apple TV movie, which is literally their story.
Yeah, like reenacted as a drama.
Yeah, highly dramatized.
Yeah.
But, based on a true story, nonetheless.
Right.
And what's cool about Hank is that he's not just like a businessman. He's actually like a game programmer who was living in Japan, made games.
Yep. He's the one that introduced Tetris to Nintendo's Game Boy. There's this really popular game in Japan. It like never really, maybe it did release on like some PC, not PC, but some desktop system called the Black Onyx. I don't know if you know much about it, but I guess it was kind of one of those early pioneers in like turn-based RPG kinds of games. Okay.
There's a Game Boy Color port that is like animeatized, it's got like the character portraits are all like very like 90s anime.
Yeah.
I was looking up like to get a copy and it's like $3,000. Yeah, so I guess it's a big deal in Japan. Kind of like wizardry is like a really big deal in Japan too.
Yeah.
And then on the last day, on Sunday, the only guest I was after was Stig Asmundsson, who I mentioned was the director of
The
God of War 3.
$3,000 copy you were looking at, was it complete in box or loose?
That was complete in box. Loose copies were also above $1,000.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not just the box that's valuable, but obviously that does add a huge chunk to it.
Always.
But yeah, if it was like loose $50, well, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not the biggest fan of like getting something really tiny, like a cartridge signed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little like...
I do that.
Yeah.
I've
done that, but like, I feel like it doesn't leave a lot of room for, like, especially more than one person.
If someone asked me to sign their Game Boy box, like just hypothetically in an alternate universe, when I
know where this is going.
I would refuse to sign their box. I'd be like, give me the cartridge.
Well, Alexi and Hank were happy to sign my box. Okay, that was the most interesting encounter. First, I want to say about the Persona guy, Hoshino. Super friendly. You cannot find a picture of his signature anywhere on the internet.
Really?
Yeah, he's never done a signing at E3. It was always the artist.
You said Hank Rogers?
Sorry, I kind of switched. Hoshino, the Persona director.
Yeah, right.
You cannot find his signature anywhere online. I'm sure people have gotten stuff signed by him, but like, I think I might be in fairly uncommon company.
Yeah.
But Hank and Alexi, they were super friendly. Hank was perplexed. He was like, "How did you guys know we were going to be here?" He was like so like confused, but not in like a upset way, just sort of like, because we saw the SUV pulling up like 5 minutes before their panel.
Yeah.
And I was like holding up my box, like as the SUV was kind of like coming up, and he gets out of the car and he immediately walks over to us. He's like happy to sign the box.
Yeah.
And my friend's game cover. But he was like so perplexed. He was like, "How'd you guys know we were going to be here?" Like, even when he was like 20 feet away from us, he was like, "How did you guys figure this out? How did you know?" Like, and at one point, anyways, he like puts his hand on my back and he's like, "Thanks for being a super fan."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, Hank Rogers touched me."
Yeah.
Alexi, he's a little more quiet, a little more reserved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But was not standoffish or anything. But yeah, he was also... He's really nice. I've told you the story about how I sent my Japanese Game Boy game to his mailing address, which is online.
Yeah.
And he signs like stuff for people for free, no cost. Just include a return mailing address, mailing label.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So he's like obviously super humble and just like happy to do anything for fans.
Yeah.
But he signed my game upside down. So this was sort of like I have to make good on this, you know.
Gotcha.
Like I need something that's signed in the correct. It's because it was the Japanese box, so you can't tell.
Oh, okay.
And the graphic is like very trippy and wild on the cover too. So I totally understand how that happened. Because it's just the way he opened the box is the way he signed it, you know, and then put it right back in, slap the label on. Because I included like stuff to seal the box back up, so he didn't have to like tape it back up. Or I just made it as easy as possible for him to slap on the new label and send it back to me.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was like, okay, I need to actually get this, and it was cool to actually. I mean, like when you think about gaming legends,
yeah, he's one of the tops. He's,
like
and like
there's Mario, there's Zelda, there's like Donkey Kong. I mean, no, so you got Miyamoto, you got Alexi, you got the guy Iwatani who made Pac-Man, and I guess you could say Dragon Quest with Hori maybe, kind of pioneered the JRPG with that one, predates Final Fantasy.
Sure.
Like I don't know who else is on that level.
Maybe Sakaguchi.
I feel like he's like one generation after. He's in his like fifth.
Sure. Yeah. He is younger than.
He is younger.
Oh, Ralph Baer. I'd throw him there.
Remind me who that is.
Magnavox.
Oh, okay. Sure. I mean, you have a whole era of like consoles that came before, and a whole other group of like
Nolan Bushnell. He's deceased now, but Ralph Baer I think is still alive.
But when you think of like specifically the stuff that's still relevant, like Tetris will be here 1,000 years from now.
Right.
I fully believe that 100%.
Right.
Like that game is eternal.
Yeah.
Like it's just the same basic concept, unchanged, works forever.
Right. That's true about a lot of games. Pac-Man, that's pretty true.
Yeah, I don't know if Pac-Man has the staying power, of a Tetris.
Right.
I
Well,
think,
that's Namco's fault. They could really do a lot more with that IP.
yeah, I mean, I feel like Namco's been trying.
Yeah.
They have been, like, making new games and, like, making new spins on it and, like, bringing back the retro games. I just don't know if the gameplay is as compelling and addictive as Tetris. Because Tetris also has that one more time after you complete a round,
Right, yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
So, yeah, it was awesome to meet all those people. Okay. One last thing I have to mention.
All right.
PM Studios. They were one of the people in the gaming lounge. Mm-hmm. They had a bunch of demos for a bunch of their upcoming games that they're publishing. And they happened to be doing a giveaway. They had this app called Fuse. That's sort of like a game collection tracking app that I guess they've debuted in recent months. Mm-hmm. And as part of this promotion, or part of this like new app, they're doing this promotion where some of their games are getting these special limited variant covers that have like the Fuse logo all over it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they were giving out these special variant copies of their games, sealed. And these are limited to just 200 copies, period.
Right.
So they had a couple different things you could do to get some of the games. They also had copies of games that were just standard editions as well. Mm-hmm. But I was like, well, let me get these ones that are, 1 of 200, you know? So I did do the different little, like one of them was like downloading the app, one of them was like playing some of the demos, and then there was like getting a friend to sign up for the app too would also get you a free game as well. So I got all 3 of the variants that they had available. There is zero information about this online. I found one Reddit post where someone said they reached level 10 in the app and they got sent a variant. But it wasn't even these 3 games. It was another game.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, there's a whole lot.
We don't even know what the list is.
We don't know what the list of these Fuse variant covers are. So this is some, like, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
This is, like, weird territory where no one knows it exists except for, like, the people at that studio, effectively.
Right.
So, if you're a hardcore collector and, like, you gotta have, like, that complete Switch collection, you might want to like set your eBay alerts for a Fuse variant. They were all Switch copies. They didn't seem to have any for like PlayStation that were variant covers. It was just the Switch games.
Got it.
Apparently the founder of PM Studios and the founder of this app is like a hardcore game collector, like has every game for every console kind of thing.
Well, that's insane. You almost have to be a multimillionaire to do that.
I think he is. Yeah. Okay. At least the employees were constantly like, every employee I talked to was like, "Oh, my boss is like, he's that guy. Yeah. He's the guy who has everything, or is like close to having everything." You know. I mean, obviously, no one has everything.
Yeah. But we don't even know what everything is.
Yeah, but I mean, like when it comes to like probably retail releases, this guy's got them. It sounds like. Right. So, I guess he's a big-time collector, and this was, like, something he wanted to do. Like, I want to make grails, like, unknown stuff. That was a really cool giveaway at PM Studios. They were the only one giving out free games. Even IGN wasn't giving out games. Like, they never threw games out into the audience.
Interesting.
It was just peripherals or just entertainment-adjacent kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
All right, that's enough about IGN Live. I had a good time. I hope they do it again next year.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some improvements they could make to the experience. I don't know if that venue is really going to work.
Long term.
Yeah. I feel like they could take like the West Hall at the LA Convention Center, which is like the smaller of the 2 halls.
Right.
And kind of build out from there. And that way everything is more cohesive and connected.
Makes sense.
But... I think a good first start. In my understanding, I wasn't there when the event ended yesterday, but a friend of mine was, and he told me that they said like we're gonna do this again next year. Yeah. But I don't know that that's an official conference. Right, that might just be like they're like, yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah. Get everyone hyped.
And then the bosses, at work are like, no, you're not doing that again.
Yeah. Well, I kind of regret not going, but I did have other stuff going on.
Yeah. I think if it happens again,
Oh, I definitely
make it a priority.
Definitely,
yeah, because it was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, so we're going very long with the intro. This is handedly our longest intro.
I don't know. Last week was pretty long.
That's true.
Maybe not this long though.
No, not this.
I don't think we've ever gone into this much detail about an event before.
No,
there was a lot. This is like almost like if we were talking about E3.
Right.
Know?
True. All right, so I'm gonna move on to my Seraphim Weekly update.
Let's do it.
So my computer is up and running. Everything is working. I'm gonna go ahead and consider it fixed.
There were no little issues that popped up.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
I haven't seen any.
So the power supply was the problem.
Yeah, which does make sense if you think about it. New components require more power.
Yep.
So that's good. I worked on a little bit of kind of just unremarkable code that doesn't really have to do with gameplay, just some other background stuff.
Okay.
But my main focus this week was addressing one of the key things that I think contributed to the burnout that I experienced, and that is the folder system. It doesn't really matter how organized you try to be. If you're working on a project for 10 years, which Seraphim has been 10 years as of May 10th, you're going to pile up files. You're going to have multiple versions of the same asset file, like 8 different times, and your naming conventions are going to change over a decade. You know, you're just not going to be thinking the same way you were 10 years ago. And so that has kind of been overwhelming. And so I have taken the initiative to kind of just focus on that. And get that cleaned up. There were a couple instances before I stopped working on it and after where I had assigned a reference to an asset file only to later discover that it was the wrong version of that file. And sometimes you catch it right away, especially when it's a visual asset and you can clearly see the difference. But that's not always the case. People consider 3D assets to be a visual asset, but there's so much more to a 3D asset than just what's visual and what you can see.
There's invisible layers.
There's the whole bone system. There's the envelopes, there's the UV unwraps, there's the keyframes. You can't see those by looking at it. You know, there's just a lot. Materials, you know, just all that stuff. So, it's very easy to assign the wrong version to, you know, your material or your animator component. And so, it needs to happen. I need to just address that, get that cleaned up, and do a little bit better job. It's weird, you know, and you can't really explain this to someone who hasn't tried to make a game. It's like trying to explain to someone from like New Guinea what chocolate tastes like.
Well, let me ask a really dumb question.
Sure.
Or what's probably a really dumb question. I guess it's different with all these sort of unseen assets, maybe having more of like a detrimental gameplay effect if you assign the wrong thing. But like I imagine some of these assets are like visually the same, but maybe a larger resolution or a smaller resolution. Are you concerned about like compiling them into the final game and like it just being more? I mean, because games have all kinds of leftover assets in them. Like when people do data mining of various games, they find all kinds of weird stuff that was never used.
My top priority concern is not like this stuff getting packed in for like, you know, size and optimization. Although I do think about that a lot. It's their presence causes a threat. I'll just walk through a scenario. Like, here's how it happens, right? So I'll assign something, and then later down the road, like, an animation clip is just not there. It's just not happening when it's supposed to. And I'm like, and then I have to go into Sherlock Holmes mode and figure out, like, why is this not working? I'm looking at the code. I'm looking at the, you know, the meta files and all that stuff. I'm looking at everything, trying to figure out why is this not working. Spend days sometimes going through, like, my script. I'm like, why is it not being called? It is being called. It's right here. What's going on? And then it's just to find out that it's like some old version that doesn't have that animation clip. That's why I can't have that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that will cause the game to take another 10 years if I just let that go. So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Okay.
But like what I was going to say was that, you know, like explaining to someone who's never tasted chocolate before what chocolate tastes like, you can't, right? They have to. The only way to understand it is to taste it. Someone who's never tried to build a game before, this is hard to explain to them, but you can't. There is no room for like OCD, but you also can't not be OCD. And it's a weird balance, and I can't really explain it effectively, but you have to know like where to apply that kind of energy and where not to apply it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing. You could get hung up on just organizing your files and keeping your folders all, you know, named, and then you spend a bunch of time doing that. And stuff's going to change.
Right.
And what are you going to do? Go back and restructure everything? Yeah. And so that doesn't work. But also, you can't let it get like this.
Right, just all one folder. And
right.
Sorry, here you go.
Exactly. And then on the front end of the game, you know, like you have to know how far you can really go with perfecting something, you know, and there does need to be a little bit of OCD there, especially with like art style, like high art style games and stuff, but also you need to know a limit,
right.
You know.
You got to ship it at some point.
Right. And so it's just a weird thing. It wants, you know, the practice, the discipline wants you to do this, but also not do it. Yeah. You know, it's hard to explain. But yeah, that's my update. That's what I'm doing. So
okay.
I'll let you guys know when I'm done. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, it's 10 years of files.
You mentioned that it was like something that like made you stop when you stopped working on the game a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it's not the sole reason,
right?
But it's definitely a massive contributor to the burnout.
Yeah.
Because you look at that and you're just like, okay, I don't feel like doing this.
Right.
Like, I just
don't.
So,
like, how are you tackling this then?
Going through each asset folder one at a time, starting with the resources folder, which is the most important.
You're not reorganizing, right? You're just like finding the stuff that's not.
I'm going through each folder and cleaning out. Like basically, I'm taking everything that's like an older version of the file that's not going to be the one that gets referenced in the game, moving it into like some backup.
Is there a way for you to easily see if a file is being referenced at the time or not?
It's a little time consuming, but yeah.
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay.
And I do that. Okay. Like you can right click it and
go through some menus.
Find, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, it's time consuming, but it's important, and it probably doesn't feel important. Like, probably feels like I'm dragging my feet.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not development. It's not adding new content to the game.
Sure.
And but if I don't do this, it's
like you said,
just gonna.
So, like, what makes you mentioned that scenario where, some animation was missing and just wasn't playing. You checked all your code, everything looks right.
Right.
What eventually gives you pause to go, oh wait, I need to look here instead.
Intuition. You got to just be Sherlock Holmes.
It's almost like it has to happen to you so many times
well,
that to look over there. Maybe
this is where having a deep general understanding of games comes in play, because I can't imagine how a team of 200 people are going to figure this out.
Right.
Because you're going to have the guy looking at that who's like the technical artist or someone who has no control or say or input over the file structure, who's, those files are coming from the animation team.
Right.
So how is he going to...
I would imagine there must be some kind of very strict structure.
Yeah.
Like there's probably someone whose job it is to just manage everything.
Maintain, just the project folder. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Because, that can just lead to days wasted.
Yeah.
And it you don't want to throw those things away because you might need to revert back if one gets corrupted or something.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm just moving that stuff. And then there's obsolete assets that are not in the game anymore. That was like a button or something that I was gonna have that was in the game at one point, but I got rid of it. That stuff's in there too.
Right. Now, how careful do you have to be while you're doing this? Is it like how quickly are you able to be like, no?
Yeah. So you can't just be thinking about something else.
Oh, okay.
It's not like something you can automate.
You got to be focused on that.
Yeah, you kind of need to really inspect.
Okay.
Just
no YouTube videos in the background, no podcast going.
Right. Yeah, it kind of sucks that much energy goes into something like this.
Yeah.
But
that's game life, people. That's the real deal.
This is really how it goes. And you know what? One human being can't have everything. Like, you can have someone who has all the creative talent, all the technical skills and artistic abilities, plus has a full computer science understanding of back-end server development, hard code, C++ and stuff like that, and has audio engineering skills, etc. as a musician. They're not also going to have administration skills and business skills. That's just not realistic. A human is not going to be that.
Yeah.
And so I have to subsidize my, parts of my brain that are missing with building tools to help myself. Even writing apps, little programs to help myself. And that takes time. Mm-hmm. And it's just wild how... A game that's like a console experience is just not supposed to be done this way, by one person. It's almost... It's been done.
Do you ever man, I should have just left this a mobile game?
No. But I do try to remind myself that this game was once complete.
You're right.
That I once did achieve completion.
Right.
Because if I don't think that way, then I do feel like I'm just toiling away,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You had a mobile game that was effectively done aside from back-end stuff.
Yeah.
To integrate online things.
Right.
And, third-party services.
Right.
But then the scope, the opportunity arose for, the game to get bigger.
We saw that, we saw the door open into the console world.
Yeah.
And it was so easy, at the time to just walk in. But, now it's...
You can't leave.
But I know that when this game is done, it's going to be, I'm going to have no regrets.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Just because of how good it's going to look. But yeah, that's my update.
Okay. Let's jump into this first story, yeah?
Yeah.
I think you got this one.
Yeah, so we're getting into the news. So, Palmer Luckey has been he has a new game project in the works, and you might wonder who Palmer Luckey is. He is the creator of Oculus. He usually can be seen wearing a Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops. He is the co-creator of the Oculus Rift VR headset, which ended up being acquired by Facebook in 2014 for $2 billion.
Yeah.
So Palmer Luckey, no matter what, he gets the last laugh.
Yep.
Because Facebook paid him $2 billion.
Yeah.
The Oculus brand would later be named to the Meta Quest. If you remember, Facebook bought Oculus, Facebook rebranded as Meta, so now it's Meta.
Yeah.
And that is how it continues to be sold on the market today.
Yeah, I think it's the Meta Quest Pro 4 or something like that right now.
Super creative naming conventions, not unlike Microsoft. Palmer was forced out of Facebook in 2016 after after his personal politics created a public relations problem for Facebook. In 2017, Palmer founded Anduril, based out of Costa Mesa, California, which creates military-grade drones, weapons, and security systems.
Andoril, I believe, is named after a weapon in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
For anyone curious.
That doesn't surprise me at all. We've seen Palmer in person a couple times.
Yeah, at the Game Awards, the first couple of years it was in LA, I would always see him inside of the Yard House. Because we would always go to the Yard House before.
I remember at least one instance we saw him at a table in the Yard House.
He
with, like,
was
some
always
friends.
drinking this like blue, looking like lemonade drink or something like that.
He's an interesting character.
I believe he doesn't drink. I don't like he's like straight edge in some capacity
with alcohol.
Yeah, maybe probably drugs too if he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm
drink.
sure.
Most people do drugs.
I don't drink alcohol,
but I mean, when you're a billionaire,
right.
I'm sure you get that stuff thrown in your face a lot.
Sure. So Palmer is also a gamer. He is a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, he named his company after Lord of the Rings.
You can't argue with that. And his long-standing passion for the Game Boy modding, for modding Game Boy games, goes back...
Game Boy consoles.
What?
Modding Game Boy consoles, not games.
Okay, yeah. Right. My bad. Yeah, see, that's interesting. But yeah, some modders mod games, others mod hardware.
Yeah.
But yeah, that goes back 17 years. And now he seeks to enter the retro handheld market with his very own Game Boy game-playing device being made in partnership with Spacebot Interactive.
Yes.
So
Spacebot Interactive, for anyone curious, they are a developer who's been using a GB Studio to make Game Boy games.
Right.
They made a game that came out a couple of years ago. It was Dragon something. Like Dragon Shout or something like that. It was like a top-down sort of turn-based, like Zelda meets like Pokemon kind of look to it. Like the battles look kind of like a Pokemon battle would.
Sure, yeah.
Except it was like a party of like one character. Anyways, this person has been making a like deluxe version of that game, and they also gave it a new rebranded name. Now it's like Dragon Nim.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like a Game Boy Color version of the game rather than just being for Game Boy. They actually delisted the original version that was on itch, so it's kind of a bummer because I didn't get it before I found out about it. It was like too late.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of regret not having got it back then.
Yeah. So the new console is called the ModRetro Chromatic. It's a I remember what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
GB Studio is the engine that all the Game Boy homebrew teams are using.
Not all. There's a couple. There's a GB Studio is the main one.
Right.
It's the big like freeware.
Yeah.
It's got like a visual sort of like game builder. So like even if you're not like a hardcore like coder, you can still pick up and experiment and make things with this.
It's writing code, I assume. I've seen visual like representation software like that, but you're building a flowchart. Yeah, it's writing code.
Yeah. And like if you are someone who knows how to write code, you can also do that in conjunction. But it does have like almost like a drag and drop style like game creation tool.
Right. Yeah, they Unity integrates some things like that.
Oh, okay.
Like their particle system builder and their animator stuff. Like you can actually drop like animation clips and then connect them with lines and conditions and stuff. And it just writes code in the background. Anyways, so the ModRetro Chromatic is a FPGA Game Boy game-playing device, not unlike the Analog Pocket, which came out years ago.
It's going on 2 years.
Yeah. So the Chromatic will play only Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and is available in 6 different colors: Inferno Red, Inferno, which is red, Leaf, Bubblegum, Wave, Volt, and Midnight. You can pretty much infer
the colors there. Yeah. Midnight is a black.
Yeah.
Some people might think like a
purple or something.
Yeah, purpley blue or something.
The colors are very reminiscent of the classic Game Boy console colors.
Yeah. Like some of them reminded me of some of the Game Boy Pocket colors. Some of them were like the Play It Loud kind of colors.
The colors themselves are almost like a pastel kind of version of the color.
Yeah,
felt like,
and it's not just plain either. There is like some like retro-y looking like vintagey lines on the corner.
Some line pattern going on the bottom right corner.
I kind of wish that was optional.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it dates it a little bit.
I can see it being a brand thing.
But yeah, because they're calling this the ModRetro Chromatic.
Right.
So yeah, they obviously wanted to have sort of a retro vintagey sort of look to it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Why they're doing it.
So every unit of the Chromatic comes bundled with a brand new, officially licensed version of Tetris for Game Boy Color.
Now, Tetris for Game Boy Color did not exist.
Right.
Does not exist until now.
Yeah.
This is a new Game Boy Color Tetris game, which, if there's one thing I like about this, it's that, like, there's a new version of Tetris, and it's like, I need this version of Tetris.
Right.
Like, I really want it.
Right.
But, of course, it's only available as part of the $200 console bundle.
Right.
We'll get there.
Understandable. Other console holders do the same thing.
It's not too often you see an exclusive game. Like, even Tetris was sold separately on Game Boy.
No, I mean, Nintendo does it. Yeah, with, like, Nintendo Land.
I know, I feel like those were sold
Wii
separately,
Sports.
though, for people who would also buy, like, a used console, you know?
Wii Sports was sold separately?
Maybe, no, I think it was a pack-in only in North America. Other regions did have it for sale.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, most people just have like the little sleeve or whatever for it.
Right. Anyways, so I already read that. So ModRetro will also be publishing physical copies of new homebrew games for Game Boy and Game Boy Color. These games include Dragon Nim, which you mentioned already. Yep. Patchy Matchy, Tokitori Ultimate Edition, which is interesting. Tokitori is an actual franchise.
Right, and Tokitori was on the Game Boy Color, but apparently this version of Tokitori kind of backports some of the newer functionality of the newer versions of Tokitori back to the Game Boy Color. So it's like a revised version of the original Game Boy Color game.
Right. Tales of Monsterland DX, In the Dark 2, Traumatarium Penitent, Myers Manx, and a new game will be added to the lineup every month.
Yeah.
So, Palmer and team are particularly proud of their custom-built screens for the Chromatic, and Palmer had this to say regarding that. I spent a ton of money developing a custom display that is accurate all the way to the sub-pixel level, which is critical given how sub-pixel aware good art of the time had to be. The panel isn't even standard RGB. We use custom color filters to mimic the Game Boy Color LCD. So interesting insight into the actual display technology.
Yeah, it seems like the display is like the main pitch behind this thing. Like they're really insistent that like this display is better than anything else out on the market.
I did see side-by-side images.
Yeah,
I know you're gonna doubt it, but what I did see looked impressive.
I saw the side-by-side image of the Analog Pocket, and it's a little disingenuous because he has the filter. He has like the filters turned off, like the pixel filters of the Analog Pocket, and like there are things to get like the warmth and stuff like just how you want it, you know. So I feel like that in particular was sort of disingenuous of him to like, oh, look at them side by side. Ours is so much nicer.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you just had changed the filter setting, it would look identical to yours.
Sure.
But, you know.
I mean, you really think 2-year-old technology is going to look exactly identical to this?
It's still just a screen. It's sort of a custom-built screen for this thing. But, like, the screen in the Analog Pocket is the same one in Valve's VR headset. which happens to be the perfect aspect ratio to be 10 times higher resolution than the original Game Boy, like down to the like correct pixel count and everything. That's why they use those.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's pretty high end tech in the analog pocket screen too.
Sure. The website, Palmer's website for this, had this to say about the chromatic screen. More
detail on the screen.
It says, continuing ... is a fully custom sunlight viewable LCD perfectly miming, which is a weird word to use here.
That's his words.
The size, resolution, subpixel structure, color balance of the Game Boy Color so as to faithfully recreate painstaking pixel art. So, is the analog pocket, can you play in the sunlight?
Yeah, the screen gets really bright. Okay.
Yeah. So how much is the ModRetro Chromatic? Your $199 pre-order gets you the chromatic unit in the color of your choice, a copy of Tetris for Game Boy Color, which we mentioned, and 3 AA batteries.
That's right. The chromatic runs on AA batteries.
Right, and that's a choice that I can see him making.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice.
This is not clearly, from his perspective, this is not about the same thing that the Analog Pocket is about. Right. The Analog Pocket is about making retro games as playable on their original cartridges as possible, and being as universal about it as possible.
Sure.
This is about recreating an experience.
Yeah, like a tactical...
Right.
Now they do, if you keep going there.
Sure. Rechargeable and removable battery packs will be supposedly...
Yeah, like they said it'll be available at some point.
Okay.
But there's like no listing for it on their website.
Gotcha. Will be supposedly sold at a later date. Boxed physical games range in price from $30 to $45, which is pretty good. I think that's just like average pricing.
That's pretty average for homebrew, like secondhand. I mean, when we were kids, Game Boy games new were like $29.99 tops typically.
I remember $30, $35.
I'm trying to. I feel like Pokemon. Maybe it was 30, maybe it was 40. But yeah, I don't feel like they ever got over 40. I do often see homebrew games going for as much as like $40 to $50, even sometimes just for cartridges only.
Yeah.
And I think that's because, they're not mass producing things,
right.
hundreds of thousands of cartridges at a time.
They're going to be rare.
Like these are like made at home. Like these are someone's flashing the ROM manually, like themselves, you know.
The Chromatic is expected to launch holiday 2024. ModRetro also says that the Chromatic will also be available in stores at GameStop when it launches.
Which is something that Analog is definitely not courted. No retail presence with the Analog Pocket.
I kind of like that. And then, so yeah, that's the ModRetro Chromatic. So I kind of take it as ModRetro is the brand and then Chromatic is the console.
Yeah, the Chromatic is they've said in their like marketing that like this is just the first thing we want to do.
Right.
So I could see them doing like a GBA next. That's like got the proper GBA form factor.
Yeah, right.
I will say well, this product I don't personally like really understand who it's for when the Analog Pocket already exists.
Yeah, I know you don't.
I mean, sure, there are people who will buy both happily,
right?
Understandably, but they just have that kind of expendable income,
right?
But if you're just trying to play Game Boy games, the Analog Pocket already does that, and it's been doing it, and it's $20 more, and it offers a huge slate of additional features that.
Sure.
The ModRetro Chromatic does, including playing Game Boy Advance games.
Right. So, like I was saying, this is clearly not trying to do exactly that. This is trying to recreate the Game Boy experience to the most authentic degree it can, with including batteries, and that kind of thing. This is again not the Analog Pocket to me feels like a piece of tech for use in studying games.
Okay.
This feels like an actual, like, we're going to recreate the Game Boy.
Okay.
Now,
I'm curious because traditionally, or at least on this podcast, you're kind of down on things that aren't original hardware. And like,
oh yeah,
yeah, like I've talked about my Analog Pocket, and you're like, I don't want to play it on that. I want to play it on the real thing,
right.
And I understand that viewpoint.
Sure.
But like, it's not like the Chromatic is the real thing. It's an FPGA console the same way.
Sure.
The Analog Pocket is an FPGA console.
Yes.
Like
you're right.
essentially identical in that regard.
Right.
Yeah. So is this something you're actually interested in for some reason? Or is this just, just another thing that you think is cool but not for you?
I lean more that way.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting, and I would own it if I had $200 to throw at it.
Maybe you can pre-order it and get it for free like you got your PlayStation Portal.
Right. That's. We need to stop mentioning that. I don't need Sony Ninjas coming
Oh my god.
They want that $200.
They got your info. They can just charge you at any time.
Yeah, they can't. They can't. Dude, there's laws against that. They can't just debit my bank account $200.
I mean,
whenever they feel like it.
I mean, yeah, that would suck. like rent's due tomorrow.
Yeah, like they can't just.
Okay, but let's say it happens. You gonna fight them on it?
I would wonder about it.
Yeah.
I would send an email for sure.
Like, what the heck was this?
Yeah.
Like for your pre-order from a year ago.
We're way past the statute of limitations. They can't just debit.
Well, you're the one who's worried about it, not me.
I'm not worried about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just giving you crap.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, yeah, regarding this, though, would I own it? Yeah. Yeah, I would own this.
I mean, yeah, if someone was like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a ModRetro Chromatic, I'd be like, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
But, like, as someone who owns a Pocket, and as someone who, like, sees the value proposition, like, if you're someone who you're just looking to play old games, looking to play your Game Boy games.
Sure.
Like, and you have the two options sitting next to you. One is, if it's like, well, the Analog Pocket is $20 more, although it was originally the same price as the ModRetro Chromatic is now. And, like, the Analog Pocket is going to ship way before holiday 2024. So I don't know. I just feel like he's like, there's almost like he got the Pocket and said, no, I want to make it for me. Yeah. I'm sure he bought an Analog Pocket. Yeah. Probably excited about it.
No doubt.
Got it in his hands. It was like, I could do one of these too.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
but like you're probably right. You're probably 100% right on that. But like I say, he wanted to do something different. And I think you're not seeing that.
It's weird, though, because he talks about, like, this doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. Like, it's ridiculous how much money I've spent on this.
Yeah.
But it's like, at the same time, and he's like, we're only making however many people order.
He did say something like that, and I was going to touch on that. Like, he made it sound like this is going to be limited.
But he's also selling it in GameStop, so how can it be limited then?
Right. And he's talking about future potential projects.
Now, Analog does kind of do this too, where some of their projects, some of their like FPGA consoles do eventually get like sunset. Like the Pocket, they've said is planned to be around like in perpetuity.
Yeah.
But like some of their other consoles are like, they do a couple runs.
What other consoles? Like
they've done NES, they've done SNES, they've done Genesis.
Gotcha.
Right now they have it's a retro console that plays discs and those cards.
Famicom?
It's like TurboGrafx.
Oh, TurboGrafx.
Or PC Engine.
PC Engine is TurboGrafx 16 in Japan.
Okay, I think it's that one.
Okay. It's probably TurboGrafx 16. That was a console that was popular enough around the same time.
And they have their next big console that they're doing is the N64.
Okay.
Which no one has ever attempted FPGA N64 before. Like even like the online community, because there's other devices that people make called Mister, Mister, that they load these FPGA cores on, but they don't take actual like cartridge slots.
Okay.
Analog always makes them so they take
Right.
cartridges.
Right.
Because,
That's their whole thing.
Yeah.
If I wanted to play a ROM, I would just load it onto any emulator.
Sure. Now, the Analog Pocket also does have a micro SD card slot, where in addition to like the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, the community, the retro like gaming community, has created cores for other consoles that can essentially be loaded onto the Analog Pocket.
Right.
So you can play NES, SNES, Genesis.
Are you buying all these consoles that Analog is putting out, or
No. These cores are just community created, free.
No, I'm talking about like the NES.
No, the Analog Pocket's the only thing I've ever purchased from them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I am slightly interested in the N64, but I have a feeling it's going to be like
a lot of money,
$300-$400, because apparently the kinds of FPGA chips they need to do like that kind of tech are like cutting edge. Yeah, and so people are expecting like a really high price tag for that one.
Yeah, so like we were talking about, Analog Pocket, I think, is like this all-purpose, all-around universal thing. This is a very specialized experience, coming from his passion for Game Boy.
It's definitely something for, like, I guess... I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
But you're saying you don't understand.
No,
So this is like...
I just don't think the average consumer... First of all, the people interested in something like the ModRetro Chromatic and the Analog Pocket are already not your average consumer. These are retro gamers interested in these devices.
Yes, it's a niche already.
So yeah, it's a niche. So like, I feel like Lucky is like creating a niche within a niche within a niche within a niche with his device. And so it's almost like he's intentionally trying to sell to the least amount of people possible. Yeah. But at the same time, putting it in stores, I don't know. There's almost like a contradiction there.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think maybe he did get his hands on a Analog Pocket and said, this is cool, but I want something that feels more like the Game Boy experience.
I mean, and if he's got the money to make it.
Yeah, he's fine, dude.
I'm not worried about his bottom line at all. But
he's not making it to make money. I really don't believe that.
I mean, he must think there must be some potential and some kind of profit somehow.
I think he's making this for people that he feels are like him. Yeah. And he wants to get them this. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where ModRetro goes from here.
Sure.
How this, like, it launches, how does the launch go? Are there problems? I mean, this kind of stuff is hard. Yeah. Like, manufacturing, like, devices is hard. Yeah. Unless he's got, like, a hidden partner who's, like, already done this kind of work. Like, there could be some... Like, it would not shock me if the December deadline or the holiday, which is delayed, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's a small window. Right. But he wants that holiday, like, GameStop, because people our age have kids now. Yeah. And they're going to walk in there into the store and see it at GameStop and go, what is that? Yeah. And then GameStop is going to be like, oh, yeah, it plays your old Game Boy games. Plus, we have these new games as well that are new old Game Boy games. Right. And people are going to be like, oh, my kids would love this. Yeah. And the reality is that your kids probably don't care about it. Right. You're buying it for you.
Yeah, right. And so, like, you just described the target audience.
For the store. For the store.
Yeah, but we're talking about the product, though. Right. Okay, and yeah, you might be right that they're not going to go buy it online.
They're not seeking it out at all. It's going to be one of those things they stumble in on.
But this, like, I'm almost tempted to refine what I said the target audience would be. Maybe that it is just adults with kids who did grow up with the Game Boy. Mm-hmm. This is, like, designed for that more than the Analog Pocket is.
I mean, I think the Analog Pocket could have the same pitch if it was in GameStop. I don't think there's a different pitch.
Sure. Yeah, but the style of it looks different. The Analog Pocket looks like a black box.
Not anymore. The Analog Pocket has a bevy of colors that have become available.
Okay. Yeah. But I'm saying that this is just appealing to the old retro vintage thing, like in a way that analog's not.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know. It would almost be. I would almost be curious to see if like analog was like, hey, we're coming to stores too. You know.
Yeah.
I do wonder what analog thinks of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do they see this as a threat to their business long term? Maybe depending on how successful the ModRetro Chromatic is.
Yeah, maybe.
Or
I don't
or
know.
if they're just happy to sell to the people who want to buy
I don't
analog.
know. You might.
Because I mean, like, Palmer Luckey is basically joining the fray here.
Yeah, he is.
You can't say that he's not.
He is.
He's like, hey, analog has had this thing cornered.
Yeah.
I'm entering.
Yeah.
You know, let's see how this shakes out.
And I see enough of a difference between the two devices. Maybe you don't, but I do see that the approach is different.
Yeah. I mean, I know online people are like, huh?
Yeah.
You know, like the retro community
Yeah.
is kind of like, huh? You know?
Sure.
Like, why? Like, we all bought one of these 2 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe this retail plan is really the real game plan.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not. Maybe these people, the handful of people that are buying it online, are just kind of like.
I think that if you're going to own an analog pocket, you're already a retro gamer who's clued in on this kind of stuff. That is not Palmer Luckey's clientele.
I mean, right now it is, until it's in GameStop. It's the same people.
Sure. I still disagree. I still think it's like people who grew up with the Game Boy more casually.
Well, I think a lot of people who bought the Pocket are also just people who grew up with the Game Boy. I don't think there's a lot of young people buying.
No.
retro.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that these people are going to see this thing looking like an actual retro device. Like it actually has like the stylisms of like this vintage thing that Palmer is going for.
Okay.
You know, and I'm using the GameStop experience of walking in as an example of how he's going to sell it, but it is available online also. But I do like if you own an analog pocket, you were there for Kickstarter, you knew about them.
There wasn't a Kickstarter, but I get what you're
whatever.
saying. You supported it early. You pre-ordered it a year before it came out.
You were in the know about this kind of stuff. This is not for people who are in the know about this stuff. This is going, in my opinion, be marketed to people who like are looking for a retro experience or not looking at all for anything.
Yeah, I think it is going to be more of the, oh wow, that's cool. You know?
Yeah,
and they don't know that anything else exists.
Sure.
Yeah. I did speak to one of the developers who has signed up with ModRetro to sell their game on their website alongside the Chromatic.
Yeah.
I won't say what developer it is, but their game is for sale right now on the ModRetro site. But they told me that how it's working, they're not really, they're not publishing, they're not funding. I mean, they are publishing, but they're not funding anybody's games. Mm-hmm. So like
you mean ModRetro is it?
ModRetro, I always want to call him Lucky Palmer, but it's Palmer Luckey. Yeah. Like he's not giving money to indie devs to make a game for like all these games are just privately developed, and what they've promised is a revenue split based on how many copies of the game sell. You know, you'll get some. I wasn't made privy to if it's 50-50 or 30. Yeah. I would imagine most of these developers sell their game digitally on itch, or who have sold them digitally on itch. They're going anywhere from like $3 to $15 usually. Yeah. And because the cartridges are so expensive to make, especially the ones that have like save state or like that can do like hold saves, they're even like more significantly expensive. I would imagine it's probably, you know, the production costs are so high, so even after that, we're not looking at a whole lot of money going to the developers or even, you know, Palmer Luckey.
Yeah, as far as profit margin.
Yeah, I think they are pretty slim there. Now, some of the games are more expensive. One of them, like you said, was $29.99, and another one was like $45. Yeah. And so maybe that one, there would be a larger profit margin, but that is like a much larger game than the $29.99 game, which is more of like a match 3 kind of thing.
Right.
which doesn't require like saves, to be held between playthroughs.
Right. So that, what you just described as far as the publishing situation is no different from Seraphim right now. I'm making the game. I'm not getting funding from anyone. And then I'm going to give it to PlayStation, and they're going to put it on their console, and we're going to have a revenue split.
Right.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's similar in that regard. I was just, I was wondering if they were going, like, because some publishers do fund games too, in addition to just like selling it on their storefront.
Yeah, so, the traditional publisher.
Yeah. So this is not that. Although that there is some original development happening. Like we said, they did fund a new port of Tetris for Game Boy Color.
Right.
So that did happen.
Right.
But all of these other indie devs, although we should mention Dragon Nim is made by Spacebot Interactive, who Palmer Luckey hooked up with to do this whole project. Right. Yeah.
So they're kind of on a different status level.
Yeah. And I noticed that their game is has this featured banner on the website compared to the other games, but it's your website, you do what you want.
Right.
But yeah, I'm curious. That's the thing I'm most interested in, are all these games that are going to be coming out that maybe wouldn't have got a physical release for, or maybe they will get into more original development like they did with the Tetris for Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
So I am excited to kind of see that kind of thing go on with this. I think if anything, I'd probably buy games from them.
Well, that's the most exciting part about all of this.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think anyone would think that.
Yeah.
Because the device is just,
Right. I mean, he talks like, oh, we're making the most authentic way possible to play Game Boy games. And I was like, well, the most authentic way to play Game Boy
is on a Game Boy.
And I get it. He wants modern conveniences,
Right. Well, he wants modern quality, it sounds like, to me. Like, he wants that display to actually reflect the pixel art that was put into making those games in a way that Game Boy is not capable of doing.
Well, it's interesting though, because the developers who made Game Boy games knew that the screen was crap.
Yeah.
So they made their games with that in mind. So sometimes like the colors, when they get put on these color displays, like a Game Boy Color game, which had a very, they tailored the colors for the Game Boy Color screen, not for modern screens today.
Yeah.
So that's why Analog Pocket has multiple filters. Depending on how the game was made, you would want to okay, let's use this filter to give it the more authentic colors that you saw there, rather than just bright ass colors.
Yeah. Right.
Because sometimes the developer intended for the colors to be muted, but when played on a different kind of screen, they pop in different ways,
Right. Well, the original Game Boy effectively has 4 colors.
Yeah.
It's the light green, then there's another shade down from that,
right,
and then it's dark, and then it's really dark.
Yeah.
And that's what
it's
you have.
4 shades of green.
Yeah. And then you can kind of
you can mess with the contrast.
You can have dithering in between with the pixels. That's all you have to work with. So yeah.
I think Palmer is a particularly a fan of the Game Boy Color, hence why they're making a Game Boy Color port of Tetris.
That makes sense.
So I do wonder if there are going to be any filter options and toggling kinds of things that you can do on his device.
Yeah.
Or whether it's one size fits all, which I don't think will have the best effects that he's hoping for. And then on top of that, I do wonder are there any software, will they be able to update software on the device,
right,
or is it whatever it ships with is all that it is? And I do wonder, is there a hidden micro SD card port somewhere?
There's a lot of information we don't know yet, and it sounds like it's still kind of, I don't know if it's in the early stages, but it seems like there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's 6 months or so to launch, so I don't know. I'm sure more news will come. I'm excited to see the new game get announced each month. I'm debating picking up some of the games now. So yeah, I'm curious to see where they go from here.
Yeah.
But it's cool to have one more player in that scene. I think competition is good for Analog too.
Yeah.
So and I'm excited to see.
Yeah, they've kind of had a monopoly.
They have, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be cool to maybe see people push each other, to be better.
All right, let's do the T-shirts.
Sure.
And do you want to switch it up this week, or
What do you mean?
like I think I talked about yours first last week. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll talk about your shirt then. You've got a Kirby shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a white shirt.
Yep.
Crew neck.
Yep.
Short sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
large.
It's a large size, large.
Yeah.
And it shows different poses of Kirby in different like phases of activity.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say. Shows him sucking. Shows him blowing. Shows him sleeping.
Walking,
jumping, flying.
From like different angles too.
Yeah.
Like 3/4 and then straight on, and then him doing like a flying sidekick.
There's 18 different poses depicted on this t-shirt.
Yes.
And they're kind of all lined up in sort of a grid kind of pattern.
Yep.
And then at the bottom, I assume it's in kanji.
Yeah, it's got to be kanji.
It must say Kirby. I'm presuming.
Pretty sure that's Kirby.
Where'd you buy this shirt?
I don't remember.
Okay. Where did you likely buy this?
Got the little stars on it.
It does, yeah.
So that's got to be Kirby.
I was making sure it wasn't like Shanghai or something, you know?
No, I didn't buy in Shanghai.
Oh, okay.
No. Never been to China. All right. Okay, so this is the event shirt for the IGN Live.
Yes.
So we have a black crew neck, short sleeve, looks like a large, medium.
Medium. This one's medium.
And on the front, we have a bunch of graphic in yellow, like screened graphic. And it's got a bunch of industrial line patterns with the cross-hatched and the different circles and digital stuff going on. In the middle is the IGN logo, and then IGN Live with that painterly font, like someone took a brush and painted that. Right. Down at the bottom, we have Los Angeles, the date, 6/7/24 to 6/9/24. And then the IGN logo again in like a yellow block. And then 2 arrows pointing to 2 icons, one of a TV and one of a gamepad. Yep. And then on the side it says developers _ publishers _ creators. Nice.
Yeah.
I like the industrial kind of look.
I did too. They had 4 different shirts. This was easily the best one there.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other one that was kind of okay. But one of them was like horrible. It was like this not like this weird graffiti kind of look. And it was just like IGN Live, like written like it was like spray painted on a shirt, and it had this weird like psychedelic-y looking like TV, just the very basic like line of like a TV, like
okay
5 squares, you know, like making something that looks like a TV.
Gotcha.
So
that was the best option.
It was the best option by far. It actually sold out.
Okay.
Like day 2, like this shirt was already at the start of day 2. This shirt was gone.
Yeah, it's got that like it's trying to harken cyberpunk.
Yeah, it does kind of look cyberpunky. I kind of like, I don't know, got some kind of like TV like production set kind of vibe, sort of thing with all like the camera kind of looking stuff on the outside.
Like we're going live kind of.
Yeah. So anyways, it's actually I was shocked at how nice the shirt actually is. And I like that it has the full event date range on it. Mm-hmm. And I was very pleased with that shirt.
Yeah, good shirt.
They did that very well at IGN Live.
All right. We have another news story. So, with modern games being so big, so too are their save files, right? We're getting pretty crazy with some of the save files. And with the massively successful titles that have come out recently, such as Baldur's Gate 3, being played by PC gamers around the world, one can imagine how much data piles up on the servers of hosts of these games, like the stores that you buy them on, Steam, etc.
Explain that a little bit real quick.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, people save files.
We're talking about cloud saves.
Yeah, so people can back up their cloud saves to these different storefronts, like Steam and GOG.
Yeah, and others. Epic Game Store, I think,
Epic Games probably. I mean, even PlayStation and Xbox allow
Yeah.
you to back up your saves. Nintendo too, but only if you're Nintendo and PlayStation. I think you have to be subscribed.
Subscribe, yeah.
Maybe Xbox too.
Yeah. So Good Old Games, which is commonly known as GOG or GOG, which is CD Projekt Red's own online storefront, and one of the major storefronts for the for PC games, similar to what Steam is, has announced that they will be capping cloud storage for online save files. Now, for those who don't know, CD Projekt Red is the developer of the Witcher franchise, as well as Cyberpunk 2077. Two really big games. I mean, one's a
Big
franchise.
save files.
Yeah, right. Bigger games, especially big games with a lot of customization, like Cyberpunk, are going to have big save files. So, interesting thing to note.
I think a lot of these companies probably don't think too much about their save file size either.
No,
they just
don't.
let it
Yeah,
balloon.
especially when they're on crunch and they're just throwing, like, they're not thinking about optimization, especially optimization of the save files. If they are thinking of optimization, it's on performance.
Yeah. It's like as long as the save file works, that's all that matters.
Yeah, they don't care how big it is. So, what will be the cap? GOG announced that player save files in their cloud storage specifically will be limited to 200 megabytes per game.
Yeah. Some of these games have like 40 megabyte saves.
Right.
And they do like backup save, like multiple backup auto saves.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like people will have like a gig for just one game sometimes.
Like, for example, Final Fantasy 15 has your autosave file as well as your manual save file.
Yeah.
And then any other save files you've made. And that's not even an option. Like, it just has that.
Right.
So I don't know if that's on GOG, but I don't think it is.
Well, GOG specializes
Yeah, so-
primarily in older games.
Yeah,
Right?
so I'm going to talk about that a little
Okay.
bit. This isn't a huge deal or a huge problem for the old games that GOG is best known for.
Yeah.
They do have kind of an identity of hosting old games, hence the title Good Old Games.
Games you can't find on Steam.
Right.
Games you can't find on Epic Game Store.
Right. Yeah, if you were going to play like an old 90s PC game, GOG would be where you would want to go. So those games are not going to exceed 200 megabytes, not even close. But these new games do exceed them.
Yep.
Like you're not going to get that below 200 without like editing it.
You're gonna have to delete some of the excess save files.
Yeah. Exactly. So
Like Cyberpunk, I can speak from recent experience.
Yeah.
That game keeps like your 10 most recent autosaves.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I will say they do come in handy in games like that because sometimes you do encounter like game breaking bugs.
Yeah,
and you need to roll
or you
back.
make a decision in the game that
Right.
you want to go back on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a massive concern for large titles like Baldur's Gate 3, Skyrim Special Edition, which I believe just came out, Fallout 4, etc. So whose save files are considerably exceed the new data limit.
Yeah, I think I saw the interface. They have a special interface that shows you all your saves, and it shows like the new limit, like and how much you have stored there,
Yeah.
and how much
Like-
you're allowed.
Like a little line or something.
Exactly.
With a little another
then-
line.
It lets you know that you got to take care of this because
Yeah.
there's like a deadline for this, isn't there?
Yes. So GOG users have until August 31st to get their cloud usage under 200 megabytes per game before they're affected by this by force, effectively.
Right.
GOG states that they will begin deleting non-essential files, so they're going to start there.
Okay.
And then they'll go to old saves, and then presumably, they don't say this part, but presumably anything else they need to delete to get that under.
So at least there's going to be some kind of priority
Yeah.
system. So they're not going to delete your most recent save.
Right.
They'll do the older ones first.
Right.
So, I mean...
Yeah.
But there's going to be people who log in to go play a game who aren't paying attention to this. Don't look at their email that often or get so many emails they just never check anything.
True.
And they're going to be like, all right, going to load that save. And it's like, wait, what? It's gone.
I could be wrong about this, but I do feel like people who game on GOG are pretty in the loop. It's
Probably,
not,
but I mean, someone's gonna.
Yeah.
This is gonna take someone by surprise.
Sure.
Eventually.
Totally. So a couple things. That's the whole story, but a couple things to consider. Food for thought. Two thoughts I had in researching this. Not only are our digital and online games unsafe from being lost forever with this digital revolution we got going on, now our save files aren't even safe.
Yeah.
So, unless you have a local, which, is preferable in my opinion.
Well, like with PlayStation Plus and Nintendo and Microsoft, they all have save data backup as part of their membership.
Yeah.
But if you lose your membership, they state that they could delete your saves at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically as an incentive to scare you into like staying subscribed.
Right. So yeah, it's a scare tactic to get you to resubscribe, but it also means that like you don't own that. No. You straight up don't, because you're not going to subscribe until the end of time.
Think about Pokemon Home.
Yeah.
The same terms and conditions state that if like you're not subscribed, your data could be deleted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't like that at all.
It doesn't feel good, right?
No.
Like if I drop dead tomorrow, like I know it's lame, but there's like a part of me that wants like my Pokemon collection to live on somehow, to get sent to someone or for someone to be able to like take them, you know? Like I'm just going to say it right now, right here on the podcast. If I die, I leave my Pokemon Home collection to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would probably say the same thing.
You would probably say the same thing, but you're not willing to say
I don't know.
Right
I want
to
take them with me.
Is it when I was in like junior high and high school, I would think about wanting to be buried with my Pokemon cards.
That's a little nutty, dude.
Like I would literally think like these guys are like I literally like I was like in the like this is my partner Pokemon, you know?
Yeah,
like,
right, yeah.
Like I really thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Like or like especially the ones that I had like transferred through like generations of games,
Yeah. I'm reluctant to say it because then like something mysteriously happens to me and you get all my Pokemon.
As if well now I'm worried because I already made the commitment. Shoot.
Okay.
All right, the podcast is over, everyone. Rick and I are no longer seeing each other.
You're dead. So anyways, yeah, that's true about Home. You're 100% right. I hate it. I really wish they'd come out with a new version of Pokemon Box or something similar that would be local.
Oh god, that would be amazing. But then there's also the scary part of like Box being local means like there's no safeguards. Because no doubt, like, Pokemon Home has multiple backups. So, like, if something goes wrong, they can roll back a day or something like that, Yeah. Worst case scenario.
Right.
Whereas, like, if it's saved on your GameCube memory card, the memory card goes corrupt and...
Unless you are really in touch with modding and that kind of thing, and you can back it up.
Save, yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry.
You're right. So that was my first thought, is that just, it's not enough having our games being unsafe. Yeah. It's now our save files as well, at least for cloud saves. And my second thought that I had immediately was, can we expect to see a premium GOG membership that quote-unquote offers a higher save data limit coming around?
It's possible. I feel like the time to announce it would have been like the same time.
Really?
As this.
I think that would look PR bad.
I mean, it's going to look PR bad no matter when you do it.
Yeah.
Maybe better to rip the Band-Aid off,
Yeah.
But, like, because it's like, hey, this is going to happen. Or you can pay for this and, get all the space you want.
Right.
But, maybe they wait until...
I think the right thing to do, if they were going to do that, would be to get everyone on this 200 megabyte limit until they're on it. Like the transition has happened, everyone's minds have changed.
Okay.
And then be like, hey guys, you want more space? Look at this.
But then
look at this like great thing we're doing.
The people who spent hours combing through all their save files, loading up their games, are now like, Well, what the heck, man? Why didn't you just offer that to begin with and save me a bunch of time?
Yeah,
you know?
right.
I don't know, but I think you might be onto something here with this GOG membership.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Although, we don't really see memberships
For the PC world.
Yeah, now that I think of it, Steam doesn't have one. Epic Game Store doesn't have one.
Yeah.
It's kind of a console thing, and it's
It
annoying.
It's annoying.
It's the worst thing about being a console gamer.
Yeah, it's annoying.
That you have to pay for things that are standard everywhere else.
If I'm right, GOG would be the first one to introduce something like that.
I think it will happen at some point for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Xbox Game Pass is on PC. You can get a PC-only version of Game Pass, so I guess it kind of does exist there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe GOG is looking at that and being like, hey, you know
what people need? Another subscription.
Right. If it's us, I mean, so...
Hey, get there first, and,
Yeah.
But like, GOG is for a very specific subset of PC gamers, though.
But
generally speaking.
That's true. You're right. But they are one of the major ones.
Yeah, and they are getting more and more involved with newer games.
Yeah.
Especially like RPGs. That tends to be like kind of the games they're trying to court over there.
Right.
Like Western RPGs.
True. Yep. All right.
Okay, we've got not really so much a story. Or wait, you have some quotes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're not done with that story yet.
Okay, everyone.
So we have some online reactions of just some users and their opinions, because I was very curious and I asked Taylor to go on social media and grab some responses. So internet user Sixel Alexis says a true PC gamer always makes personal backups and doesn't trust saves to the cloud. Great take. Yes.
Yeah.
I actually like what some of these people said. Internet user RoboMagic says, what incentive do I have to buy CD Projekt Red's new games on GOG if I will have a better experience with them on Steam?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good point. Internet user Sean Echo says, good thing I don't rely on cloud storage. I always do manual backups of my saves, but this still blows for people who do. The fact that 2 of CD Projekt Red's own games massively exceed the limit is just funny/dumb.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
PC gamers are getting that. It's funny because PC gamers, we typically think of them as sort of they're all digital and they don't care.
Yeah.
But like they still, there's still some...
They're not dumb.
Rationality to what they do.
They're logical with how they... they're not just blind.
Yeah.
Internet user Wolf says, I was already considering moving my Cyberpunk stuff off of GOG and over to Steam anyways, so this is just sealing the deal for me. A 200 megabyte limit in this day and age is wild. Yes, amen to that. And this just looks like a bunch of pretty hardcore GOG users just migrating to Steam.
Yeah,
and
it's going to lead people away.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see like an exodus in that direction.
I mean, I think maybe GOG is like almost okay if like the people buying new games.
Well, CD Projekt Red definitely is.
Yeah. I mean, CD Projekt Red would probably prefer people to buy their games on GOG because that means they don't have to give Steam a 30% cut.
True. Yeah.
And I think GOG also offers like no DRM on their games as well.
As far as I am aware, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another incentive for people to...
Does Steam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steam allows publishers to
put DRM
in their games.
Got it.
Whereas GOG, I don't think you're allowed to if you publish your games there.
Gotcha. Just for people listening, DRM is
digital rights management.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a big shady past in the DRM world.
Yeah, they say it's to prevent
piracy.
Yeah, so you can't just like copy your save files over to your friend's computer or your game file and then they can play it. basically requires like internet authentication and like programs that run
always be connected.
Yeah, on like a system level that are like scanning your whole system.
Some DRMs in the past have been full blown viruses.
Basically, yeah. Like
it's crazy.
Like a virus you agree to download and let run.
Yeah. This is kind of unrelated to GOG, but it is related to CD Projekt Red. I just wanted to throw this out there. They receive a lot of money from the Polish government, mainly for developing their games.
Yeah.
But
they get subsidies.
They get very subsidized.
Just like how like certain states and countries offer like filming subsidies, you know, like tax incentives to do work there.
Right.
Polish government offers that to game developers like in a big way there. That's why CD Projekt Red
is their biggest. It's Poland's biggest for sure.
Yeah.
And they get subsidized.
I mean, I remember when Poland was like meeting with the president of the United States of America, who I believe was Barack Obama at the time. They brought like CD Projekt Red's like games as like a gift for their country.
This is our biggest export. Crazy.
Video games.
So I know that there are certain agreements. It's not just like here's a bunch of free money. It's like we need to see more of this being promoted. That kind of thing.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so GOG putting limits on your save files.
Digital, you know, the digital conversion.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
happening.
Once they make us all digital, then they start restricting us. You know, it's happening on PC first,
and then they charge you for the same product 10 different times. And they got you for life, and then they start charging you by the month to play their game.
Yeah,
and then when you stop paying, it's gone. Yep.
So if you thought this episode was over, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
We got more to talk about. You know how last week we covered PlayStation's State of Play showcase, and we painstakingly went over every single game in the showcase.
Yep.
Well, Xbox just had their big showcase yesterday on June 9th, which was Sunday. We are not going to go over every single one of their games, though.
Yeah.
We each picked 3 games to talk about.
There were a lot.
It was a 2-hour presentation.
Yeah.
Way longer than PlayStation's.
That's crazy.
So I honestly, Xbox had, out of the two, if I was just to like real quickly say which one was more impressive, I'd definitely say Xbox hit hard yesterday. Like they gave people a reason to want an Xbox yesterday.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now they're putting their games all over the place. Not all of them. Yeah. But it's almost like maybe they should have waited a little longer to see if this could swing things back their way. One
thing I will say about the two, while PlayStation's presentation was definitely much shorter, I feel like the games, there weren't any really bad ones. Like,
no,
with Xbox, there were some disappointing trailers and stuff like that.
Sure, but like they announced like big new entries in like Xbox core franchises, whereas PlayStation, the only core franchise they announced anything for is sort of a new franchise, and it's the Astro Bot game.
Yeah, right.
Everything else was third party.
Yeah.
Xbox's, all their first party stuff looks stunning. And that's primarily what we're talking about here.
And there were some good ones.
Yeah. So we each have 3 listed here. Why don't you do one, and then I'll do one, and we'll go back and forth like that?
Yep. Yeah, we'll do that. So one game that they announced was Fable.
Yes.
And it's planned for release in 2025 for Xbox Series consoles and PC. Developed by Playground Games, who is primarily known for their work on the Forza Horizon series. And Eidos Montreal also announced that they would be working on Fable as a support studio, which was originally reported on by Jason Schreier of Bloomberg.
A couple years ago, yeah.
Yep, that guy. He said that they are a good fit given their work on RPGs like Deus Ex.
I don't know, that's just
that's our take.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or that's what I think.
Yeah. So this is a new Fable game.
Yes.
And it's being developed, like I said, by Playground Games. I've never heard Forza, but I've never actually. It's weird. How is a studio that does Forza games?
So Fable is like an early Xbox and Xbox 360 series.
Yes, yeah. There were three
Three.
Fable games. The third one was pretty divisive.
I think so. The first two were pretty widely beloved.
Yes.
Third game didn't really hit so hard with people. They were originally made by
Peter Molyneux.
Studio. I think it was called Lionhead.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if they were involved in the third game, but I know for sure the first two games.
Peter Molyneux at the time, around Fable 3, was talking all this like vision that he had about how you could plant a tree and watch it grow over time. Like the world was that alive.
Yeah.
And the game was nothing like that.
No.
There were times where you were on a road and short little wooden fences on each side and you couldn't like pass them or jump over them. Like it was just very linear and restricted. But yeah, the first two Fable games were like masterpieces.
Yeah. Like I remember that I was jealous of not having access to Fable in high school.
Yeah, right.
Because I had friends that had Xboxes and they would be talking about Fable and I would see screenshots of it, I would see videos of it, and I'd be like, wow, that game looks really cool.
Yeah, I had the same friends you did in high school. And yeah, it was kind of sad to see. But you also felt good for them. Like, hey, you guys have one game that's, that's an epic fantasy.
That's not a shooter,
right?
That I would like to play,
right?
But I guess I just don't get that one,
Yeah, I would still go back and play Fable.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I'm kind of regretting admitting this. They had like the digital anniversary edition for like $1.99 on the Xbox store, and I was like, okay, for that price, I'd be kind of stupid not to buy it, you know. Yeah. So I did buy a steeply discounted copy of the original Fable, the anniversary edition, which I believe is like lightly remastered.
Okay.
So yeah, I am very curious to check that out. I need to get back to my last
your Lost Odyssey.
My Lost Odyssey, my playthrough, because I only did a couple bosses. I need to go back. I forget what distracted me. But
there's too many games.
So yeah, new Fable, no subtitle. It's just being called Fable.
Yeah,
which I know I'm not personally the biggest fan of.
I'm not either. Because hate that crap.
Then when it's like listed on websites, it's Fable 2025 or something like that.
Yeah, the year becomes the subtitle by default.
Yeah,
by the public. And Mortal Kombat did this. Yeah. I can't stand this. You already have a production with that title.
Right.
Call it something else.
I get not wanting to put a number. Yeah, give it a subtitle.
Do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a reboot of the series. It's a new story set in the world of Albion, which is the same world from the original games. Yeah. There are some of these games that we're going to talk about here that are actually reboots of a classic franchise.
Yeah.
But we will get there. I'm going to talk about my first pick now. Is that, you're good?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I have Dragon Age The Veilguard. Now, this is not an Xbox exclusive. This is also coming to PS5 and PC. This is potentially releasing 10 or more years after the release of Dragon Age Inquisition, which was 2014's like Game of the Year around. So it's taken them a decade to finally make a sequel to Dragon Age. Apparently this game has gone through a crazy topsy-turvy development cycle.
Yep.
Originally EA wanted them to make a multiplayer live service Dragon Age game.
Yep.
And then BioWare went on to make that Anthem live service game, which was a huge flop. It's probably thanks to Anthem flopping that this Dragon Age game is not a live service game.
I remember Anthem.
Yeah. They were hyping it up like it's the new Destiny, you know, and then it came out and no one played it and it was in a sorry state. Yeah. Well, people bought it. People played it, but like after a week they were like
it had a very short-lived
like it did not have the staying power. Live service is hard to get right. Like, and it's not just getting it right, it's also getting lucky. You got to strike at the right moment in time when player schedules are open. It's crazy. But this trailer that they debuted didn't show any gameplay. It was a cinematic trailer that kind of one by one introduced the companions that players will be traveling with on their adventure in this new area of Thedas, which is the world of Dragon Age. The trailer had a very unique kind of art style and look to it, which we're not sure if is representative of like the visual style of the game. But the reception to the trailer from gamers has been bad. Even me, a hardcore Dragon Age fan, did not like what he saw yesterday. The trailer gives you the impression that you're being introduced to a cast of characters from the new Overwatch clone.
Yeah.
Like, it has that, like, cartoony, character look.
That Guardians of the Galaxy effect.
Yeah, that we talked about last week with Concord.
Yeah. And it had, like, the character and then their name all big.
Like, whoosh.
Like a big,
and then there's
title card for them.
There's this weird, like, modern, like, pop music song thing playing in the background.
Right. Yeah, did not fit.
The tone was just, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Dragon Age has always had some snarky characters and like that kind of British humor.
That's the kind of snark that like Hades has.
Yeah.
But it didn't have this Marvel snark.
Yeah, so people are really confused and now everyone's really worried.
Yeah.
Now, what should be reassuring is that the same writers who have been writing Dragon Age for 15 years are the same writers on this game.
They are?
They are.
Okay.
So this might just be a massive marketing misfire with this trailer.
Yeah.
But either way, this is players' first impression of the game.
Yeah.
And it's almost universally across the board, no one is happy about it. If I had more time, I would have included a bunch of quotes.
Yeah.
Like we did for the GOG story, but needless to say, people are brutal. Now, BioWare got the message. So today, they released a little preview of gameplay. Now, tomorrow, the 11th of June, was the planned day for full gameplay reveal and demo. But today, they released like 45 seconds of that, just so players could get a look for what the game actually looks like. And people are a bit more relieved now. Because it doesn't really look like the trailer looked like. It looks more like Dragon Age. Now, every Dragon Age game has kind of had a little bit of a unique visual flair to it. So maybe the characters still kind of have that look. We don't really know yet. But
I was not a fan of the character art in the teaser.
Yeah, it's like definitely not ideal for me either.
Not for Dragon Age.
So I hope. I mean, look, I'm here day one for this game, no matter what. Visuals, character, style be damned. It's still going to be Dragon Age. I'm still excited for it. But it would, it would just be kind of like, I guess I'm just going to have to accept this and move on. Right. So I'm curious to see the full gameplay reveal tomorrow. Hopefully it puts everyone's fears to rest. And, people can go on being excited about Dragon Age games again. But, yeah, like, hardcore fans, casual fans, people just kind of curious about the game. No one's happy with this trailer. Right. Everyone is like, what were they thinking?
It looks like it's trying to jump on a trend.
Yeah, exactly.
With games that aren't even, like, the same kind of game.
Yeah, it makes not... but, yeah, I guess... I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is EA's marketing decision or BioWare's marketing decision.
It looks like EA.
Yeah. Just not good.
Yeah. Well, let's, talk about it next week.
Sure. Reserve judgment for some actual gameplay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah,
this
same.
Looks hot.
Same. I'm very excited about this.
Okay.
Okay, so one of my big I have a lot of games that really impacted my development as into adulthood.
Okay.
They're few, but there's enough of them. One of them is Perfect Dark on Nintendo 64. I played that game, it changed me. I played nonstop.
Yeah.
Even after beating it, just you'd go around the Datadyne Datadyne
it's okay if you don't remember
facility
exactly.
and stuff, and you had shooting ranges and outside of just like the main missions.
Right.
And I just like
a lot of game like that was made by Rare, right?
Yeah.
And they made GoldenEye before that.
Yeah.
And GoldenEye had like linear level. I mean, some openness to the levels, but still
the levels did feel like GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Like the map and stuff. Like it was still the same amount of linear, but this felt like a remaster of GoldenEye, where blood would splatter on the walls and stuff, which GoldenEye didn't have.
Right.
It did have blood pools, like clouds, but this was like splatters.
Yeah.
Like it was.
They leveled up.
They did level up. And Joanna Dark is my favorite, like female
heroine.
Yeah.
Gaming heroine.
Female main character.
Oh, period. Okay.
Has been. Always has been.
Like in movies, TV shows.
In games.
Oh, okay.
Like
games specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say. I mean, I feel like
there's not enough material to give her that title. Okay. There's only been.
I was gonna say it's
2
gotta
games.
be Ripley, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Without thinking too hard about it, probably.
She's the OG heroine.
Yeah.
Action heroine.
But as far as games, like, even beating out Lara Croft is Joanna Dark for me.
Dang, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, a new Perfect Dark trailer was revealed in this Xbox presentation. No release window, probably 2026.
Maybe 2027
Maybe.
even, yeah.
That's at the earliest,
we
think. Developed by Xbox's Santa Monica-based studio, The Initiative, with support from Crystal Dynamics.
Speaking of Tomb Raider.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
That they could actually bring something to this game.
Yeah.
With their experience in Tomb Raider. Not a continuation of the previous Perfect Dark games, but a reboot taking inspiration from the previous 2 games, Perfect Dark on Nintendo 64 and Perfect Dark Zero on Xbox 360. Which I did play a little bit of, did not enjoy as much as...
Yeah, I seem to remember the consensus being, like, people were so hyped for a new Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
And even though it was made by Rare...
10 years later.
Yeah, it was made by Rare.
Yeah.
But it just still didn't capture people the same way, I guess.
Right. The most recent release in the Perfect Dark series was a remaster of the original game, which was released in 2010. So we haven't seen activity with the Perfect Dark IP since 2010.
Squandered, man.
Yeah.
Totally squandered.
Yeah, dude. This game, its world is insane.
Yeah.
Described as a first-person secret agent thriller in the near-future world, which is true. They have flying cars and stuff.
Yeah.
The gameplay trailer showed series protagonist Joanna Dark using various high-tech gadgets to infiltrate a secured compound in Cairo. Only near the end of the trailer does the gameplay get crazy, with Joanna using her various weapons and melee abilities to take down and neutralize enemies as she makes her escape. Has a very next-gen look to it, really impressive animations.
There was this crazy part where she did this crazy slide kick thing into an enemy, and I was blown away. Sometimes I see these animations and I'm like, there's no button prompts on screen or anything, so I'm like, in my head I'm like, from a gameplay perspective, how the heck do I do that? It looks nuts.
I did see that too and had similar thoughts. What I did notice was this X-ray vision she had going on, or thermal or whatever it was. Yeah. That's new.
Yeah, she could see through the walls, kind of, and shoot.
And part of me, and I'm not. This isn't a complaint.
Okay.
But part of me did feel like they're trying to be Cyberpunk a little bit, with just the way the first-person shooter aspect felt.
Yeah.
Like all the jumping around and the, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it did show her kind of parkouring through some building.
That sort of dash combat that Cyberpunk has. In Cyberpunk, you're not just standing there shooting your enemy. They're bouncing around, dashing around the area, and so are you, And this kind of, felt like it's trying to mimic that a little bit. Again, not complaining.
I think what might set it apart is the gadget aspect.
Yeah.
While Cyberpunk does have hacking, it's literally just you're thumbing up and down on the D-pad and holding square.
Right.
You're not using gadget. It showed her at one point recording a guard so that she could play it to like this like walkie or not a walkie-talkie, but some kind of communication device.
Mm-hmm.
So like that they would open a gate for her, you know.
Yeah.
I thought the gadget aspect, you know, when they say it's like a spy action agent thriller, you know, like that. I think they really are trying to hone that in. Like, this is not just a run and gun game.
Yeah, right. It never was. Like, it never... Perfect Dark never was. In the original, like, you go to Area 51, and you're infiltrating.
Yeah.
And you're walking, like, above people.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just crazy. There's an alien gray named Elvis that befriends you, and he becomes, like, a side character.
We don't get spy games anymore.
No, not really.
Like, the Bond games, we haven't had one of those in 7 years, probably.
Right.
The Hitman developers are making a new James Bond game.
Oh, they are.
They are.
Interesting.
Which is exciting. I think if there's anyone that's a good fit, it's probably them.
I think so.
Okay.
Hitman isn't exactly James Bond.
No, it's
very
not.
different game.
No. But, they are a good fit. I still feel that way.
Yeah, their look and stuff definitely fits James Bond. But anyways, so Perfect Dark. If I'm excited for one, I'm gonna
Perfect Dark's coming
probably
back.
That one.
Yeah, it did look really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about Gears of War E-Day.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like D-Day.
Right.
So no release date announced for this. This was their "We've got one more thing to show you" title that happened at the very end of the presentation. At least if my memory is correct. Again, no release date announced. Probably not next year. Probably 2026 or later.
Mm-hmm. No gameplay.
Yeah, no gameplay. This was, I think it was an in-engine cinematic, but they didn't actually show any gameplay. So this is a series prequel starring longtime Gears of War protagonist Marcus Phoenix and his friend Dominic Santiago, who I believe just goes by Dom typically in the game.
Right.
It's set during the events of Emergence Day, that's what E-Day stands for, when the Locust Horde emerged and began their invasion of Sarah, which is the name of their world.
Right.
So from the blog post, this is kind of some things I gathered from it. They said the game will redefine what players should expect to encounter, even when it comes to enemies that are normally seen as just like fodder.
Yeah.
So like the Locust Drone, which is this big, really brute looking kind of mindless thing, kind of reminds me of the Koopas from
the movie,
except they have a big head, not the
that little
tiny head. So like in the trailer, it shows Marcus like literally fighting for his life, like having this very like up close, like melee focused, kind of battle, like where any one of them could have won. It felt like
right.
So I wonder if that's sort of a hint that there will be sort of more of these sort of kind of one-on-one moments where like things are more challenging and you're not just
where you don't have a gun maybe and you're having to actually struggle.
So again, no actual gameplay shown, but it does kind of open up at the end of the game or at the end of the trailer, kind of like overlooking this huge massive city that's just on fire and crawling with like giant monsters. So I wonder, I know the Gears of War games are fairly linear, like you're just kind of like going on, like you're just moving forward pretty much,
it's a fantasy first person shooter, not unlike Doom and stuff, but it's
different pace than Doom,
yeah,
but still just a fun shooter, kill some alien stuff looking thing kind of game. But it does also tell an emotional, like, personal story between the kind of cast.
Right.
And I know people are like really attached to some of these characters.
Yeah. Especially Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah. He's like one of Xbox's OG.
He's almost like a mascot character in a way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Gears. It's like Gears, Halo, Fable at one point. The Forza series now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like core tentpoles of Xbox. So that was it. Yeah. That's it for Gears of War. But big announcement for Xbox fans for sure.
And we haven't seen any activity with the Gears of War franchise.
Not since like 2018. I think there was like a DLC expansion for Gears 5.
Right. All right. So another one that excited me a lot was Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Yes.
So a lot of questions come to mind, like immediately.
I know a little bit about this, so if you have any questions, maybe I can answer them.
So I'll just go through the details real quick, and then we can discuss that. But no release date announced, but has been rumored for a 2024 release, possibly 2025 now.
Pre-orders just went live today, actually.
They did.
There's a $200 collector's edition.
Of course.
In the US that has like this like terrarium. Like it's like a jungle and it's got like a little snake figure and
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, not for me.
Yeah, I don't have space for that. Developed internally at Konami. High-end remake / remaster of Snake Eater.
Yeah.
But retains original gameplay with some enhancements.
Yeah, it's not gonna like play radically different. They're not turning this into like a run and gun shooter,
right? Or doing the Final Fantasy VII approach.
Yeah, no, they're not going crazy in that regard.
Yeah. Previously announced at PlayStation's 2023 showcase.
So kind of interesting that like it's now hopped over to Xbox for the next announcement phase of it all.
Right.
But
what I saw looked pretty true.
Yeah.
And
it looks nice.
Yeah.
It does look really nice.
So Konami doing something good, maybe?
They're doing a remake of Silent Hill 2, but that's being farmed out to Bloober Team.
Right.
But they're doing this one internally. And I feel like it makes sense for Konami. They don't have Kojima guiding the Metal Gear team anymore.
Right.
The Metal Gear team needed to go, hey, let's go back to classic Metal Gear and let's re-examine, let's remake this game from the ground up.
No zombies.
Yeah. Let's learn like the fundamentals. They probably have a lot of new people.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people who did work at Konami probably jumped ship to Kojima or went somewhere else because Konami just stopped making games for a while.
Yeah, right. We didn't see them much at all.
No.
Like after Kojima left, they just kind of fell off.
They've done a couple little things here and there. Especially like in the AAA space. They've had a lot of like AA.
I'm sure they've released like casino slot machines.
There's been like some new Bomberman games and things like that, but nothing like, earth-shaking Metal Gear scale.
Right.
So I feel like this is a smart move for them. Let's let these new team members kind of like learn how to make a game.
And what a great way to do it by remaking a classic, and going through the practice of doing that. Maybe after that, their new team will be prepared for something a little more ambitious. Original.
I mean, where does Metal Gear Solid go from here? Like, eventually there has to be a new game in the series, right?
It's anyone's guess. It's a big old question mark. It could go in a whole bunch of different ways. Kojima could come back. Kojima could get the rights. Konami could find someone else who can do it.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't want to make something brand new, you have the original Metal Gear games. Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 for MSX and other platforms, which could be, could be right for like a AAA remake of those stories.
Right, like an actual 3D experience of those games.
Yeah, I think that could be a good way to go without like upsetting people, but also like providing something new and not like...
Also, those games are largely just unplayed by people. I don't know that anyone's really delved into the Metal Gear games.
They've sometime included them like on the various versions of different Metal Gear Solid games, but I still think people load them up once and they're like,
whoa,
oh no, I can't play this.
Yeah.
Because we're talking like pre-NES stuff even. This is MSX. It's primitive.
And difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
So Metal Gear Solid Delta. Looking forward to seeing what Konami cooks up there and what comes next.
And like I say, I was happy with the visuals. Yeah. Looked good.
One note, they're not recording any new dialogue for the game. They're using all the original dialogue from the first time around. Presumably they have it. Corn Guy's here, honking his horn, everyone. All right. I'm going to talk about a game real quick. We have Doom: The Dark Ages.
Mm-hmm.
This releases next year. This is a brand new announcement. No one had ever heard of this game before.
Mm-hmm.
It's releasing next year. It's developed by longtime Doom developer id Software.
Yep.
This is the origin story of the Doomslayer. You know, the series protagonist, the guy that most people call Doom Guy.
Yeah.
So this is basically Doom goes medieval, but also still retains like that cosmic horror sci-fi elements to it as well.
Yep.
So enemies and weapons have been reforged and reimagined with a medieval spin. Instead of like a traditional chainsaw, he has a shield saw that like he can like rip the cord on the back of the shield and it spins up like a saw, and he can throw it and it like comes back like a boomerang. It looks pretty wild. And instead of like a modern gun, he's got like a boomstick kind of looking weapon.
Yeah, like some flintlock thing, but it's also full auto.
Yeah, at one point it showed this like crazy skull like bomb launcher thing.
It was like, no, it was shooting bullets, but it was grinding heads.
Oh, to make the bullets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then it was like this like machine gun thing. Yeah.
It's why, it looks crazy.
From a gameplay perspective, I feel like everything, like this one looked the most like just pure fun. To just like, what a game to just like go ham in, you know?
Doom's always been that.
Yeah. And my understanding is the last two Doom games have been like really, really enjoyed by players, like on console and on PC. Even the Switch ports that they did were like phenomenal. Somehow they got those games running on Switch, which is like hard to believe.
Yeah.
People have like referred to them as like impossible ports.
I've heard that they're the right amount of difficult.
Yeah.
Like they're not easy, but they're not like impossible.
Yeah. There's like a rhythm and like a kind of a cadence to these games.
Yeah.
Where you just get into like boom, boom,
and
you know.
This looking at the trailer, it looked like something that John
Romero.
Romero would have done.
Yeah.
Like would have cut this trailer.
It's inspired. Like it is.
It really feels like him. And
I'm curious. I'm sure he reacted to it. I'm sure
we should have looked at that. Yeah. But one thing I love that they cut this trailer and it just went straight into gameplay. Yeah. There was no cinematics. There was no CG teaser. No,
there were a couple little snippets of like him showing like getting his armor
on
and stuff.
It was like 4 to 8 seconds of like animation, and then just straight like shooting, running, and gunning gameplay with metal music, classic Doom style. It felt like it had the spirit of Doom.
It was correct.
Yeah, it was correct. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, we have one more tiny thing to talk about. So remember a few months ago, back when the merger between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard was happening, documents leaked on some web portal where Xbox was working on a all-digital Xbox Series X.
Yep.
Well, that has now been formally unveiled and announced.
It is real.
So the Xbox Series X digital will be available in a 1 terabyte model, and it will be white to differentiate itself from the black Series X with disk drive. They also announced a 1 terabyte Series S, which is the less powerful disk driveless console that they have too. In
digital version?
It's already digital only. Okay. Yeah, imagine they announced that one in disc version. Yeah. That would be kind of crazy.
That would be crazy.
But I'm guessing here, I think in sort of a joint announcement with the digital things, they announced a new Xbox Series X that has 2 terabytes of space and a disk drive. So I feel like this is their way of sort of like, hey, we saw the reaction to you guys being all upset about the digital only console.
Yeah.
So we're going to make this announcement about a upgraded version of the disc console as well.
Watch everybody just like put their pre-orders and stuff on that, and then the digital only one just gets like very little.
Yeah, I don't really know. These aren't coming out until I believe November, they said. But it's like I feel like everyone who has a Series X probably already has a Series X.
Yeah.
But there are maybe some people who have been on the fence, and maybe this will push them over.
Yeah. I might jump on this. Maybe.
I mean, I imagine this 2 terabyte disk drive model will probably end up being pretty rare.
Yeah.
And uncommon.
Yeah.
I think the majority of Series X's are going to be the ones that have already been sold and manufactured.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're going to be manufacturing a new Series X with a slightly updated color scheme too. It's got this like cosmic speckle.
The console itself, the hardware looks different.
Same form factor. It's just got like a new scheme, a paint scheme, I guess. It's still black, but it's got this like they had a name for it.
Speckled.
Yeah, but it's like this like starry or cosmic or galactic or something like that.
I might actually get this one because I need.
You're still Xbox-less.
Well, actually, I just bought an Xbox One.
That's true, you
but,
did.
Yeah, I mean, would be nice. And transmission.